I have like the best pregame conversations on my show prep with Xander as we go back and forth and pontificate on how we're going to execute this bad puppy. You would be surprised if I told you how we prepare. It's nothing to do with content, it's attitude. You see, this is more of a defensive mentality here. It's an attitude. And that's why we always start the program off with Big Sills. We are down the runway. Tower, getting ready, full throttle. You're hoping it's not the Challenger this year. You're hoping it's a nice plane flight if you're the Eagles, right? Full throttle. That could mean anything. And boy, I got to tell you, man, right out of the gate, Angelo Cataldi, way to go, Angie. Make sure you check out his blog, too. That thing yesterday is blowing up because of you guys and because of what he said. We're going to hit more into that here in a second. And we got a ton of stuff to hit on. By the way, we're hoping to catch up with Gary Cobb at 4:30. Xander, obviously, at 3:30. I want to send some love out to a former teammate and a Miami Hurricane legend. Bernie Kosar has been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and liver failure. And I would never have been a Miami Hurricane if it wasn't for Bernie Kosar. When I was transferring from Maryland, I call him my cousin. We're cousins from another mother. Dave Pazzulli played with the Cleveland Browns. Dave played at Pitt. He was a dear friend of mine, still is to this day. And he went to my high school. We were very close. Still are, like I said, very close. And Bernie, of course, was the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. And I kind of know who Bernie was. I saw him beat Nebraska in that 83 national championship game. It was Miami's first. I wasn't there for that. And he basically said to me, he goes, "Hey, let me talk to Kosar. See if Miami's interested in you." So Bernie calls up Howard Schnellenberger, and Howard Schnellenberger says, "Yeah, absolutely. We'd be interested in having him come down here." Miami wasn't big on transfers like they are today. And so he contacted Howard, and Howard then left, and then Jimmy Johnson picked up the baton and said, "Still love to have you, man." So that's how I got indoctrinated to be a Miami Hurricane, was through Bernie Kosar. And our friendship through all the years has become something of a Canes brother thing. And he was absolutely one of the legendary players in our program's history. First guy to drive a team. He was a true freshman to a national championship. He would go on and play in numerous AFC championship games against John Elway and the Denver Broncos. The drive, all that, the fumble in the end zone by the Browns. I mean, they were on their way to going to the Super Bowl. Bernie ended up getting a Super Bowl ring, being a backup quarterback for all people, Jimmy Johnson with the Dallas Cowboys. And to hear that news today, that he's struggling now with Parkinson's disease and he's got liver failure, kind of breaks my heart a little bit, because that's somebody that's been near and dear and very close to me. So just sending my prayers out to him. Not to get to show off on a bad note there, but hey, man, we all got our name on the wall somewhere. That pelt's there, isn't it? Doesn't matter what year, what day, that pelt is on the wall. And he is absolutely one of the great people you'll ever know in your life. Love Bernie Kosar. So thoughts and prayers go out with him and the entire Canes family. That appearance, though, by Angelo. Let's go over that now. Man, I think it just shows you, and I think it validates one of the things that I said. And I've been trying to express to you. Hey, by the way, Big Sills is not going to let this die. As much as Odyssey and the Eagles wanted to die, no way. No way. Because what it does, it can, hey, get this. I don't really even give a shit about Howard Eskin in this conversation in a way. I really don't. It's more about Odyssey and the Eagles showing you how they control a narrative when they want to and how they control and manipulate the media. They're telling people not to say anything. Mum's the word. Both radio stations haven't said anything. Very little has been said anywhere. Why? Because Bob Lang and his henchmen are without a doubt putting the screws to these people. They want this story to go away like they did the ESP story with Deshaun Jackson, because they look at their certain mouthpieces that cover the team and they protect them. Hey, you know, there's a part of me that says I'm jealous. There's a part of me that says I'm jealous in this, because I am. That's pretty cool. You got an organization that'll back you for sexual harassment. Today in the Me Too environment and our cancel culture we have today, 95% of the people don't survive this. Shooter says this: WEEI went the same way of WIP. Odyssey's the worst. Correct, Shooter. You know the story up there in Boston with me, don't you, Shooter? I said this yesterday, you guys. I was earmarked to be the morning guy at WEEI. I was never fired by Odyssey. As much as you guys like to read the media clippings in the on the internet, find me an article where it says Dan Sileo was fired by Odyssey. I was never fired by Odyssey. They took me off the air in San Diego because they were moving me to Boston. If you go to the Radio Inc. or Talkers Magazine or Radio Online, it says this: Bob Bollinger, market manager, San Diego. Dan Sileo will remain with company, but he's no longer in mornings, because they were moving me because I was making $300,000. That wasn't cutting it on that station, 97.3. I was never fired. Even though everyone goes, Sileo fired, I was never fired. I was never fired in Phoenix. Show me an article where there was a press release I was fired. It's about controlling a narrative. It's completely about controlling a narrative. So anything that comes out of a coach's mouth, NovaCare, those press conferences, always take it with a grain of salt. Even some of the people that covered the team, like Jeff McClain. Jeff McClain's not going to damage his accessibility to the Eagles by having some crazy-ass comment. I'll tell you what I give a lot of credit to. Xander, you get this guy on a lot. Marcus Haynes does a really nice job. He does a really nice job at basically just speaking his mind. I like him. I like him a lot. I really do. Sills, the Krauses back you like Lang backs his guys. Great comment. Yes. Yes, Bob. But I'll tell you one thing. The Krauses aren't going to back me for sexual harassment or for being a racist or an anti-Semite. That's not going to happen. That's not going to go down like that. You know why? And I would not want them to. I have to represent myself too. You know, they put me on their airways. They pay me. There's some sort of like obligation to kind of like, you know, conduct myself in a decent way. You have to conduct yourself in a decent way. You can't show up at places grabbing chicks' asses. It's not, that's not conduct. That's conduct detrimental to what you're trying to accomplish. Eduardo, right. Where's the tape? Hey, I said this and I posted this. You can either vindicate or you can validate. All the Phillies have to do is post the video. Story's over. Story's over. Story's over. Why won't they do it? Because they don't want to. They're trying to protect an asset that they have. Every single one of those suites and areas have cameras on them. Okay? I want to thank you guys because you guys, a lot of you went and watched that Angelo Cataldi interview we did yesterday, and it's absolutely blown up. And we appreciate it because, hey, at the end of the day, here's my problem with WIP now. Allegedly, hey, D Hurts, you can end allegedly right now by just showing the tape. Now, here's something else to think about. So if you're WIP and there is a scandal of a player with sexually harassing someone, where does WIP have the grounds to criticize or even have a conversation about it when you don't address your own issues? That's one thing I always have done, and I promise you. And sometimes my bosses hate it, but I always address my failures and my successes because it's part of the story. Okay? What's he say here? Not a fan of Eskin, but he tried to kiss someone. This society is going to shit. Okay? I mean, once again, I don't really care about the Eskin part of this. I kind of do. Because you have to conduct yourself in a professional manner. My problem is there's the Eagles again. And their propaganda machine, hard at work. They lie to you every day. And they give you crumbs. I'll tell you the truth. I mean, they barely protect their players. Because you know why? It's more important to protect Howie, Jeffrey Lurie, and the front office than it is any one of the players or coaches. It is. Jay Brown goes radio wars. Who cares? This ain't a radio war. This is a right and wrong thing. This is right and wrong, dog. And stories that come out of NovaCare, they're lies. You don't really believe anything that comes out of those players' mouths or coach. No, not the players' mouths, the coach's mouths, and the general manager's mouth. Hey, Sills, I hate to say it, if this was Irvin, he would have been thrown to the wolves. And Eskin, because he is white, gets privilege. Your thoughts? Yeah. Plus, Michael's got a track record, though, too, Ace, to be fair, with bad behavior. So there's a track record that also goes with that. Because let's not forget something. OJ got the benefit of the doubt. Okay? For many months before people started seeing what they were watching on TV, and they had to come to a conclusion in their own mind what they thought was the truth. Okay? I mean, there's no question. Well, but I would make it more this though, Ace. I don't know if it's got a lot more to do with race, if it has more to do with that they like this person as a mouthpiece for the team. Okay? The media always painted y'all as thugs, but the Canes family's close. Got a love for each other. Absolutely. To this day, love every single one of my former teammates, and I love the guys that are currently down there right now, each and every single one of them. And you know what's great, Sean? By the way, Sean, thank you. Sean, you know what's awesome? I had somebody say this to me about my political stances and my political views, how Jerome would look at it. You should have heard our conversations in our locker room. Nobody judged anybody because of their religion, their political beliefs. Everybody admired everybody because they were individuals. They weren't trying to mold the whole team to be one value. I like a team of different values. I like a team of different personalities, different religions. That's what makes character on a team, that you can all live with one and do an accomplishment of winning a national championship. I mean, that's how you become a champion. Not everybody's cutting the same steak. You're not cutting the same cloth. I don't want to live on a team with people like that either. I want to have diversity. I mean, to me, that's exactly what makes a great football team. Is being able to live with one another with different beliefs. Okay? So any way you can have Angelo on a day, a week for a full show, you guys would expose all lies. Daniel, I'll ask him. Maybe what we'll try to do is get Angelo on once a week next as the football season comes up. How's that for you? We'll do an hour. I don't know if he would do 4, but I think we can maybe get him to do an hour or even 45 minutes. What do you think, Xander? When the football season starts, regular season, we get Angelo Cataldi on every Monday, have him on somewhere 3:30, 4:30, something like that during the football season, and we'll do an hour with him. I'll ask him. He seems to be open to doing everything, and he's asked me already to do some stuff with him on his website, and I said that I would gladly help him in any way feasible because I think without a doubt, he's one of the greatest sports talk radio hosts in the country, and he helped start one of the greatest radio stations of all time, if not the greatest. I think that thing is better than FAN. You know why? The fans. The fans. Dude, the host in Philadelphia, it doesn't really matter unless you find a guy like a Howard Eskin, like an Angelo Cataldi. Those guys are special. They'll last longer. A Diddy, guys like that, sure, get it. But the rest of them, they're widgets. What makes that station so great is you. Okay? You identify with the Eagles. There's a reason why they spend $4 million a year paying the Eagles for the broadcast rights. Do you understand that? WIP and Odyssey pays the Eagles $4 million a year. You understand that, right? Did you know that? Did you guys, you know that? The San Diego Padres, when I was on the Odyssey station in San Diego, paid $2.5 million. Odyssey pays the Padres $2.5 million so they can broadcast their games. Okay? So just always remember that. They pay them. And get this, the Eagles have a right of refusal if there's something that they don't like. There's outs everywhere in these contracts. I've seen them. Ryan goes like this. No, I don't know that, but I could care less. Hey, so when you're listening to somebody talk in that station, you think they're coming from a place of being genuine and doing a true show? Or do you think they're coming from a place of protecting and giving you an actual sports talk show? How about that, Ryan? How can you get any kind of a show when you know you're obligated because you pay somebody to come on your station? That's why they don't go on 97.5, The Fanatic, because they spend $4 million to go and broadcast their rights. Hey, am I exposing some stuff for you here? Huh? You didn't know that, did you? How much? You know what Odyssey pays the Yankees? They pay them $7 million to broadcast Yankee games on WFAN. That's why these teams have autonomy in telling, like Bob Lane can call up the program director or the market manager in Philadelphia and say, stop talking, or we'll pull our broadcast rights and go across the street. They'll pay us. That's right, Daniel. The reason why they hire cheerleaders is because they're a megaphone for the team. That's why when you got a guy like Angelo, like when I've told you guys this, one of the reasons that WDAE in Tampa had to fire me was because the Bucks, iHeart, Clear Channel then, was paying the Bucks to broadcast on WDAE $1.4 million. And there I am hammering away at them. And when they had the opportunity, they took full advantage of it, even with high numbers. Didn't matter. Look at Tucker Carlson on Fox News. Highest ratings of any news talk show in America by far, even Hannity. When he started talking about the pharmaceutical companies and Big Pharma, they yanked him. Big Pharma has a lot to do with broadcasting today. They control a lot of the media. How many more shots you going to get? 20? Hope it helps. All right. Let's get into what I think we're 13 days out now. We're on the runway here. We're on the runway. We're getting ready for camp here. I like some of the conversations that our guys in the mornings do. I really do. I think Xander's really kicking ass. That show sounds. D. Hurts goes, you are the media. Yeah, I'm the media, all right, but I'm no journalist. I would never consider myself a media guy, journalist guy. I'm a talk show host. A media guy? You call me that. That's fine. I never looked at myself as a media guy. I think those guys are pigs. People that portray themselves as media and columnist or journalist, hilarious. CNN's not a journalistic outlet, and neither is Fox. They're propaganda machines for both sides of the aisle. Told you, that's why I listen to C-SPAN. At least I'm trying to get somewhere center. Form my own opinions. Okay? By the way, again, to me, it's about the best guy on Pennsylvania Avenue. It's not about a Republican or Democrat. It's like rooting for a shitty coach. Would you really hire a shitty coach? Would you hire really a shitty president? Why would you hire somebody that sucks, not qualified? You wouldn't do that for your favorite football team, would you? I wouldn't. When the guy wins and he's in the White House, though, you got to kind of hope he succeeds because that means we all succeed. If they hire a shitty coach somewhere in the NFL and you're on that football team, you got to hope that guy, whether you think he's good or not, can get the job done for you because you're going to be a casualty of his failure. That's how I look at things. Well, we got the wrong guy. No, I hope not. I hope not. Okay? Right? That's right, Shooter. A journalist can't have a talk show. That's such a great comment. Never thought about that. Never thought about that. Absolutely. We're going to do a bunch of stuff today here. I want to do this. So, where's that sheet? Okay. I want to read this comment here from a FS1 host. And I want you to tell me something here. By the way, we'll ask Xander this. We'll ask, hopefully, our friend Gary Cobb this question here, too. I'm going to read this here for you. Here it is. This is James Jones, FS1 host. There's nothing that Jalen Hurts does better than Dak Prescott at the quarterback spot, but read option. I mean, here's his own words here. Xander, can I play this? Xander, am I allowed to play this? This is from FS1. And I want to make sure because I don't want to get the channel shut down. Okay. So this is James Jones on Speak for Yourself.
I mean, this dude was 5,000 yards last year, led the NFL in touchdown pass. There's nothing Jalen Hurts except running the read option and making the tush push that he does better than Dak Prescott. And I like Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts is going to be a really good quarterback in this league. But Dak Prescott, at this point right now in the National Football League, does everything better than Jalen Hurts at that quarterback spot.
Does he win better?
Is it a team goal, or we're talking about a quarterback? That's just because I put on the team. Defenses and all that. So I don't.
I'm assuming that's Shady back there. Is he right? Because I agree with him. There's nothing Hurts does better than Dak. There's nothing that he does better than Dak Prescott. The read option, he's better. Yep. The tush push, he's right. Other than that, he doesn't throw a ball better than him. He doesn't read defenses better than him. There's nothing he does better. And again, there goes he wins. That's a team concept. And for the record, I want to show you something about that wins. He wins. He's got a better team around him. That's a team. Hey, once again, nobody would ever say this. Well, Rex Grossman also is in the same room with Jalen Hurts too, because hey, he won. He got to a Super Bowl. Wins under pressure. Let's take a look at that. So I wrote down, and we've done this exercise a little bit, but I went and did a little more detail in it. Better team, better defense. He's got a better offensive group. Guys were 8th in offense last year. He can't play defense, dude. Dak chokes better than Hurts. Let's take a look at that. So the two highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL this year are Trevor Lawrence and now Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has been to a Super Bowl. His postseason record is 5-2. Trevor Lawrence's record is 1-1. He's 500. The second guy on this list is Jared Goff. He's $53 million. He's got a 500 record. He's 4-4 with the Lions. Justin Herbert is next on this list at 52.5. Chargers. He's 0-1. He's never won a playoff game. The next guy on this list is Lamar Jackson, 52 million Ravens. He's 2-4. Jalen Hurts is next on this list at 51 million. Been to a Super Bowl. He's 2-3 in the postseason, under 500. Kyler Murray, 0-1, 46-1. Deshaun Watson, 1-2 at 46 million. Next guy, Cousins and Mahomes. Obviously, Mahomes, 15-3. His resume's what it is. And Cousins makes the same amount of money, has a postseason record of 1-3. So the top 10 quarterbacks that are being paid in today's NFL, 1, 2 quarterbacks have an above 500 record, and Dak's at 2-5. So when you say Dak chokes, so do the rest of these guys. Joe Burrow lost in a Super Bowl. Goff lost in a Super Bowl. Hurts lost in a Super Bowl. There's only one guy on this list with one Super Bowl win. And only 2 guys with above 500 records. Even your guy is 2-3. And an ugly law. Hey, by the way, I'm talking about what James Jones is saying. Sills, that is a fair statement by Jones. But if the Eagles reinstate the read option, Hurts is a better option. Correct, but they're not. Okay? They also show that when Dak had a good team, he was the reason they lost, not Jalen. James Carver, thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate this. Sills, it's somewhat true, but doesn't control for years in the league. As most quarterbacks, especially QBs, as most know, especially QBs, as TOI progress, you get to work short to long in internal progression reading, regardless of play, because they realize the value of the odds. That it's in detailed comment that he's saying here. It's somewhat true, but because control for years in the league, as most know, especially quarterbacks, as TOY progresses, you begin to work short too long, and internal progression, processing regardless of the play because they realize the value of the odds. Okay? Yeah, I got you. Is Prescott close to Steve Young? Prescott's going to get consideration for Hall of Fame. Last 5 years, he's been playing at a Patrick Mahomes level. Postseason, obviously, is going to count. No question about it. Is Dan Marino a shitty quarterback because he's under 500 in the postseason? Dan Marino was under 500. Steve Young was an effing beast. Yeah, because of his completion percentage. Okay? Because of a completion percentage. He was the highest guy when he retired in NFL history when it came to completion percentage. The read option is still part of our offense. No, it's not. It's not part of your offense any longer. Where was that last year, your read option? Where in the world was that in the last half of the season? I didn't see it. This goes to what John McMullen and Xander were talking about a bit this morning. And when John was saying, hey, man, if they're going to try to do things and make him into Brock Purdy, I'm paraphrasing Xander, and you're trying to turn him into Brock Purdy, a.k.a. Dak Prescott, you're going to fail. Do you think there's any coincidence they hired Dak Prescott's OC? Do you? How do you know he's going to change? How do you know Kellen Moore is really going to change? How do you know they're still not trying to have a better version of 23 with a better and more seasoned play caller? Do you agree with this comment? Last year, by the way, we're going to go into this here in a second. The problem, one of the issues with the team was inexperienced play calling. So what if you had a more experienced play caller with last year's offense? You think there would have been a difference? Probably, right? That's it, Jay. Make an excuse up for something that wasn't there. Never was on the injured list. I don't want to hear that shit. Hurt. So was Mahomes. Dan Sileo, how am I getting timed out for expressing a difference opinion? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Dan Marino threw for over 5,000 yards in the 80s. He'd have 6,000 yards in the modern era. Yeah, and he's 7-9 in the postseason. So is he a shitty quarterback because he doesn't win in the postseason either? There's very few quarterbacks that win in the post. Hurts doesn't have a 500 record, and he went to a Super Bowl. That just shows you how hard it is. He's lost every road game also. He's lost every single road game he's been in the playoffs. So, I mean, Hurts didn't read defenses, particularly zones. I don't know if the OC was the reason he didn't improve, but there were a lot of good play calls, and Hurts simply didn't get the ball out to the right guy. Yeah, because that's what James Jones is saying. James Jones is saying he does nothing better than Dak. He does nothing better. Dak Prescott has had teams loaded with talent. Okay. And you've had teams loaded with talent too. So let me look how I look at Hurts getting to a Super Bowl. So you got all the way to the bar exam and failed it. Dak hasn't. Do you get extra credit for that? Is that what you're saying? Jalen gets extra credit for a team accomplishment. Getting to a Super Bowl is not a quarterback thing. It's like, I'm talking about skill set here. I'm not talking about team accomplishments and wins. Remember, you're not paid on wins. You're paid on your skill set. You're not trying to tell me you think Jalen Hurts has more skill than Dak Prescott, because that's an absolute lie. That's like saying Aaron Rodgers doesn't have more talent than Tom Brady. He does. He absolutely is more talented. Aaron Rodgers is like a John Elway. He's that kind of talent, that kind of skill set. Every single one of these players aren't paid because they're postseason records. Every one of these players are paid because of what their skill is. Almost every one of these guys have under 500 records. And they're the highest paid guys in the league. What's your rationale to that? They're paid on skill. Correct? They're not paid on what they did in the postseason. Golf got a $53 million deal, and he's 4-4 in the postseason. Jalen Hurts, 22, was paid on 1 year. 1 season, as was Kyler Murray. Combined, Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts are 2-4. I mean, Kirk Cousins, 1-3. This guy at 37 years old or 36 years old, whatever he is, he makes as much money as Patrick Mahomes now. You think he's paid for winning Super? He's paid as much as a generational player is in this league. And Patrick Mahomes. What's that tell you? You look at Kirk Cousins and you go, what do other teams see in Kirk Cousins? You know what they see? Skill. He's one of the most skilled quarterbacks in the league. No matter what you think. He's been rewarded financially because of that, not your opinion. You may have a shitty opinion of Kirk Cousins. That opinion doesn't match up to how the NFL sees him. It's called market value. If there's a market for you, people will pay. If there's not, they won't. Look at the running back market. If they see a need or a huge market, they'll pay you. Today's NFL, they look at the running back and they go, dude, $10 million salaries in today's NFL. Kickers make $4 or $5 million. What does your kicker make, that guy Josh Elliott, for the Eagles? $4 million? So you're telling me that Saquon Barkley makes $4.5 million more than he does, and he's a kicker. And Kirk Cousins is 37 years old, and he makes $45 million. I wonder if Cousins would make as much if he was black. That's nothing to do with this. Black quarterbacks are paid handsomely too. That comment is for the 1970s. Black quarterbacks are paid handsomely in today's NFL. It's a stupid comment. Okay, you're trying to win ball games. You think, hey, how about this? Kyler Murray, what's he done? I wonder if Brock Purdy ends up making more than Kyler Murray. Probably not, because he's white or like he's Jimmy Garoppolo. What was the excuse for Jimmy Garoppolo? He's 49-20. He's been to a Super Bowl too. Why didn't you pay him? And he's 5-3 in the postseason. Garoppolo is the number one example of your flawed conversation about Hurts. He's done more than Jalen. Postseason record, Super Bowl, his one-loss record is off the charts. He's injury-prone, Sills. Okay? By the way, this is not an endorsement of Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay, this is not. But his resume is one of the better resumes in the league. Hey, Niner, I know he's not. This is the conversation of what James Jones said. Again, I'm asking you, what does he do better as a skill set player? I'm not talking about team accomplishments. Name me one thing that Jalen does better than Dak Prescott. Does he throw a better football? No. Does he read defenses better? No. Sills, you're inconsistent. During the season, you said the regular season doesn't matter, but now it does. No. I said to you, players are paid. This is about compensation. Players are paid on who they are and their numbers. They're not paid on wins. Dak Prescott's not making all the money he's going to make, the $60 million, because he's 2-5 in the postseason. The same way that Lamar Jackson, who just got paid being 2-4, $53 million. He wins. Okay. So if you put Jalen on that Cowboy team, you think he'd still win? Never. Hey, T. Cole, tell me one thing he does better. As a skill set player, Bob Brown, Sills, the team is figuring out a way to embrace Hurts' unique skills within a scheme. Hurts doesn't need a lot of them to be Dak. What? I don't believe that. I think they hired Kellen Moore to be the next Dak Prescott with a little bit of a twist. And that's why Jalen's looking at it like this is different to him. And get this, I heard John McMullen say something. It blew my mind. And Xander was listening to it, and I was like, here's my take. Well, you know, when Jalen Hurts says this is more terminology changing, why wouldn't Kellen Moore change the terminology to make it easier for Hurts? Why would he make Hurts follow his terminology so it would be easier for the coordinator? I thought this was about a Hurts reclamation project. I know this. If I was bringing a new offensive skill set and a new offense in, and Jalen thought something was an out pass or whatever the terminology was, a brown set, red set, strong side brown, I would make it so that it would be compatible for him to be able to adapt to it easier, because the transition, the least amount of resistance, gives me the best formula for success. Why would I resist by giving him a whole new terminology sheet? That's just ass backwards. I want you to drive the car this way now. The brake, the steering wheel is on the other side now. Well, why don't you make the car compatible to what the kid has been driving the last 2 years? I heard John say that. I was like, why would the coordinator make the quarterback have to go through a new terminology sheet? Wouldn't it be vice versa? Because the entire team would have to know terminology, which makes for a longer process. And here's the thing you have to understand. And Xander was right on this one. Guess what, guys? You don't have a lot of practice time. It's not like it used to be in a day where you had 3 months of training camp. You got about 14 days of training camp and you're off to Brazil. That's called communication. So Kellen Moore's not changing, but Jalen has to change and listen to a brand new language. You set the kid back again. Moore should change, not the quarterback. Hey, you could change the play, but have the same terminology to make that play work. And what Jalen will see with what he's been doing for the last 3 years. Takes a little more work. But what you're doing now is, that was the first sign I know there's trouble. Is when I heard John McMullen say, when Jalen said 95%, that was more terminology. So the offensive coordinator is making the quarterback learn a whole new play sheet with language that he has no idea what fits that offensive play. He may know the play, but they're calling it something different now. Why? Why would you do that? Aren't you trying to make this simple, this transition? Why would you make it more difficult? It didn't make sense when I heard that. Bobby Ross, and I know like Barrett Brooks doesn't really like the guy, but when Bobby Ross went from Georgia Tech to the San Diego Chargers, I asked Coach, I go, man, you guys had pretty good success right away. You even got to a Super Bowl. They got crushed by the 49ers in that Super Bowl. But I said, Coach, how'd you transition in the NFL like that? I said, I didn't ask the players to transition. We changed. If I'm a coordinator, I design my plays and game plan based off the talent of my quarterback, not the other way around. According to John McMullen, they changed the terminology around on Jalen. That a way to coach them? It's a way to confuse them. And with the limited amount of time you have, how can you possibly be on the same page? You're not going to play him in the exhibition season. You're probably going to play him a little bit in these controlled scrimmages. And other than that, you're going to be possibly in helmets and shorts most of the time, a couple full live scrimmages, and you're going to be, like I said, off to Brazil. There's not enough time here. And he struggled in the offseason, learning the new terminology. I'm just going by John. He's out there. Remember something. Hey, he's out there. And he's saying it's new terminology for Jalen. Okay. Wow. New terminology for the quarterback. Why would you do that? When you have limited time to put the offense intact. And this goes back to what I said. Well, they're going to probably implement a little bit of 22. Probably. But not a lot, I don't think. I think they're going to look at 23 and say, we were right. We just had inexperienced play callers. But the way it's sounding, they're going to change the terminology of a year ago with an offense that kind of worked other than the turnovers. Big Sale's not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but do you think Hurts might have said 95% of the offense of Kellen is new because he's trying to buy himself some time as if there's a learning curve? Of course there's a learning curve. He's got to learn. Hey, let's just pretend that the plays are the same. If I'm a coordinator, I'm designing plays and game plan based off the talent of my quarterback, not the other way around. Okay. And I appreciate that. Thank you, Eagle fan. I appreciate it. Thank you, Daniel. Absolutely true. And I agree with you what you said about 95%. But here's the thing. Maybe he's buying himself more time. I don't think Jalen Hurts comes off as a guy that is trying to. I don't think that guy has motives, so to speak. I think he talks vague because I think that's how Nick Saban talked. I see some RPOs and Hurts under center. Pre-snap motion will help Hurts out. What do you think, Sills? Yeah, probably so. I think Kellen will probably do a little bit of that. Moving the players around too is going to help. Okay, I think moving the players around into the slot. I'd like to see Devontae in that slot. Can you imagine Devontae Smith running those routes against safeties? Shit, he's showing you that he's a little more durable. Eagle fan goes, I don't trust Kellen Moore. I don't think Kellen Moore is the issue here. I think what you're asking Kellen Moore to do, disciple. We should have hired Bill Belichick because he, like Nick Saban and he, like Nick Saban and Jalen, can relate because Bill would coach him hard. You know what else he would do, Disciple? Can you imagine having Bill Belichick across from Jalen Hurts, telling him all the things? And by the way, who is he exceptionally close to? He's close to Saban. And now that Saban is not a head coach, he's an ESPN guy, I'd bring Nick Saban in as a consultant, and I'd go over all of Jalen Hurts' deficiencies that Nick Saban thinks that he may still have. And I would listen to Nick, have Nick talk. Nick's one of the greatest defensive-minded guys of all time. You want a consultant? Have that guy sit in front of Jalen Hurts. Hey, Jalen, this is the reason why I benched you over Tua. You want to get coached hard? You want to have a real conversation here? Here's why I benched you. And see if he got better at it. Then you go back and you talk to your guys, Howie and Nick. He hasn't gotten better, or he has gotten better. There was a reason Saban benched him. You know why? Tua knew where to go. He knew where to go with the ball. Is he as gifted as an athlete as Tua? Never. Didn't matter. There lies your example. Brady's no athlete compared to Aaron Rodgers, but he knew where to go with the ball. There's your prime example. Brock Purdy is nowhere the athlete that Jalen is. He's a better quarterback, though, because he knows where to go with the ball. He knows how to spread it around, and he's got a great play caller. The play caller likes that skill set. The play caller thought he was going to coach a guy like Hurts with Trey Lance. Then he realized he couldn't. But I see Kellen Moore's now all of a sudden going to go from a Dak Prescott style to a Jalen Hurts style when Kyle Shanahan couldn't. Where in the fucking world do you get that from? That Kellen's just going to go, and I heard John go, well, he's a talented guy. Kyle Shanahan, would we not consider Kyle Shanahan to be a better play caller than Kellen Moore? He couldn't do it. Well, he had the wrong guy in Trey Lance. Okay. So he handpicked that guy. He tried coaching that guy. And the Cowboys traded a 3 or 4 for him. And he moved him out and he gave up 3 1s for him. Okay. And he just happened to land on a planet Purdy to save his ass. Okay. Hey, Marcus goes, JC, you hate on Jalen Hurts every day. I dare you. Hey, how about this, Marcus? I dare you not speak about Hurts for one stream. I will not do that. This entire season is based on his ass and him winning and him riding the ship. There's actually 2 other areas that I'll say here in a second here. But let's not get this twisted. The quarterback in every single NFL city is either going to carry his team to a Super Bowl or he's not. You're not going to get to a Super Bowl with a shitty quarterback. So in Pittsburgh, will Russell Wilson do it? In Buffalo, will Josh Allen do it? In San Francisco, will Brock Purdy do it? Is he the guy? Are they going to invest in him? So sit back and relax. Your guy, again, was in a conversation on a talk show, a national show, where James Jones said there's nothing Dak doesn't do better than Hurts. So don't get butthurt over it. We did get to a Super Bowl with Hurts. Dude, that is a metric that I can show you shitty quarterbacks have gotten to Super Bowls. That doesn't mean Hurts is good. Excuse me. That doesn't mean Hurts is great. I've seen less than great quarterbacks get there because it's a team accomplishment. Lesser players than Hurts have gotten there. Steve goes, Jalen's a baller. For 1 year, he's been. Sills, would you rather have 22 Hurts or 22 Dak Prescott in both of their respected systems? I want Dak Prescott in last year's system under Mike McCarthy. Actually, Mike McCarthy did a better job with Dak last year than Kellen Moore did. Kellen Moore did have 2 number 1 ranked offenses, to be fair. But Dak Prescott led the NFL in touchdown passes last year as well. Had a great season. With lesser talent, too, because there was really no number 2 on that team. Tight end turned out to be pretty good. The running back, Tony Pollard, gave him enough. And I don't think they're going to have that this year. So you're saying it's easy to get to a Super Bowl? No. I'm saying that you don't have to be a superstar quarterback to get to a Super Bowl. Hurts is good enough to win it all. We'll see. We'll see. I'm saying you don't have to be a superstar quarterback to get to a Super Bowl. I can give you 50 examples. James Carver, thank you, my brother. Sills, and minimal more footage online, e.g., clinic at Auburn, verbiage seems longer but simpler, less shorter, hand terms, like his Y hustle being a simple Y motion cross pre-snap. It does. And James, I know what you're saying. The play gets in quicker, doesn't it? The play gets in quicker, which means the quarterback is going to be able to process the intel better once he gets back to his 7-step, which is critical. Anytime that, like here, James, one of the things that made it so, that was so, okay, one thing that was so insane that you had with John Gruden, his plays were so long in verbiage. By the time the quarterback got the play into the rest of the team, especially if you were late getting the play in, you were already down on the 25-second shot clock, and you didn't have time for the quarterback to process it. And what happens when you do that? When you have more verbiage like that, the defense automatically, the closer it gets to 5 seconds when you have to set the O-line, that's the advantage to the defense. When you get to the O-line and it's about 15 seconds or 10 seconds, the advantage still sits on the offensive side. When you're scrambling to get to the line of scrimmage and you're around 8 seconds, 7 seconds, I already know as a defender, by the 5-second mark, they've got to set the line, which means they have to put you down in a stance. I already know the snap count. It doesn't matter. First, second sound. You give the advantage to me to get off the ball. I mean, anytime you have a lot of verbiage like that, like a John Gruden offense, it absolutely hurts the process of the quarterback. And I thought last year, Brian Johnson, that was part of the issues he had too. Those plays. How many times last year, James, did you see that play get in late? How many times did you see, like, the play was getting in late? Like 25 seconds, all of a sudden the play gets in at about 18. They get to the huddle. By the time they get to 10, 11, you're sitting there and you're in the huddle. You already know as a defender, they got 5 seconds to get the offense set up, and they got 5 seconds to get down in a stance. I already know what I'm doing. Linebacker, once the guy goes set, he's going to send the defense into their coverage. Banjo, cover 3, deep third, nickel, blitzes. You already know. Okay? Last year, Eagles got away with too many delays. And that's going to be another thing. The Kelsey, losing of Kelsey here. I'm hopeful that Hurts will have better decision-making than Dak did under Moore. See, now this is where I will disagree with James Jones here. I think Dak, I don't think Dak has the same. I think Jalen have given a better play caller. I think Mike McCarthy's underrated as a play caller. I do. Aaron Rodgers put up insane numbers with Mike McCarthy. Last 3 years, 2 of those years were MVP years. Oh, well, I'll take that back because 2 of those years were under LaFleur. LaFleur is a good play caller, but he did win MVPs. He's won 4 of them. So we won 2 with Mike when he was there. I'm not comparing Dak and Jalen. There's 2 different guys. But they hired Dak's OC. Eagles' problem is not about talent. The coaches, players, trust management. They shouldn't. What is their character? Will they continue to quit on management the way management quits on them? No personality. I don't know, Sam. You're being a little harsh. I think if you start showing success, not even in a one-loss column, but if you just start showing success, okay, you know, like Green Bay did last year, things look bumpy. But Matt LaFleur saw it when it came to Jordan Love, and he was right in the end. You highlighted 5% of what was said on the segment. They showed Jalen and Dak's numbers are similar, so what makes them different then, Sills? He's a better passing quarterback. And their skill sets are not the same because you keep adding that stupid-ass run offense thing that no one cares about. Dude, that running stuff with those touchdowns don't mean shit. Let's take a look at this list of all the running quarterbacks that have high totals and touchdowns and see where they are. Trevor Lawrence, nowhere. Joe Burrow, nowhere. Jared Goff, nowhere. Justin Herbert, nowhere. Lamar, okay. Hurts, okay. Kyler Murray, nowhere. Deshaun Watson, nowhere. Kirk Cousins, nowhere. Patrick Mahomes, nowhere. Come on, man. Nobody's talking about yards, 800 yards carrying, and 10 touchdowns with those dudes. I say, if Dallas doesn't pay Dak and Hurts shits the bed, would you be interested in Dak with Kellen Moore here? Yeah. You know why? Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins. He's the prime example of that. Prime example. What is different is that in the games that really need to count, Dak is the downfall. So was Hurts last year. He's 2-3 in the postseason. He's got a Super Bowl appearance. Okay. So did Jared Goff. And you guys, I know, think that Jalen's better than him, and he's not. Why? What does Jalen do better than Jared Goff? Can you name one thing? Name me one thing that Jalen Hurts does better than Jared Goff. Doesn't have a better postseason record. He doesn't have better yardage numbers. He doesn't win as much. He's been to 2 conference title games, 2 different teams. Actually, Ian, Goff has won more. He's 5-2 in the postseason. 5-2. Oh, so Goff is entering his 9th year. So we still have to wait then on Jalen, right? Okay, I got it. Okay. And he's in Detroit. He had 38 I don't give a shit about that. That stuff doesn't win Super Bowls. Running quarterbacks don't win Super Bowls. No guy with over 6 touchdowns in a season rushing has ever won a Super Bowl but Steve Young. He had 6 one year. No one. Why do you compare a veteran to a guy that's only been starting for 3 or 4 years? Why'd you pay him then? Dak's been in the league 9 years. Well, why'd you pay him then? If you don't think you know what he is now, don't you know what he is? Is he a franchise guy now or not? You paid him like he's one of the top guys. You paid him the same that Goff's been in the league 9 years. You paid him the same as Goff. Josh Allen, hey, another guy. I don't care about those rushing touchdowns. I care about the interceptions. Still has 100 touchdowns passing in the last 3 years. He's 25. Okay. So then you still don't know what you have. Okay. That's James Jones's point. And again, you're not gauged against a guy who how many years he's been in the league. You're gauged by the talent around you today. Who are the quarterbacks in the NFL right now? Is your guy better than the guy in Detroit? Is he better than the guy in San Francisco? Is he better than – nobody cares how many years you've been. They care, is your guy better? Can your guy win a Super Bowl? Well, Danny got to one. Again, Rex Grossman got to one. Colin Kaepernick got to one. I could go down the list of all these nobodies. That's not an indictment of whether or not you're a great quarterback. Shitty quarterbacks have gotten to Super Bowls. I can name you. Jake Delhomme got to one. Hurts is better than Purdy at what? I ain't winning. His time in the league, since you guys say that Dak's 9 years in, okay? Purdy's only a few years in. He's been to 2 straight NFC title games. 5th quarter in a Super Bowl. 4,000 yards, 33 passing touchdowns. Name me one thing your guy does better than Brock Purdy. He runs the ball better. Like James Jones said. Okay. You can keep that. It's funny how you talk about total touchdowns because they don't matter. Look at Lamar Jackson. How is that helping him? 35 rushing touchdowns. Has that helped him get to a Super Bowl? No. That's why they went out and got Derrick Henry. Because they're hoping Henry can put up 10. Don't forget Matt Hasselbeck. Matt Hasselbeck got to a Super Bowl. I forgot about that bum. Matt Hasselbeck. Matt Hasselbeck got one. Wow, great. That's quite a crew you're in. And Matt Hasselbeck, Jimmy G, and Rex Grossman and Jalen Hurts. It's quite a crew. Running a touchdown doesn't equate to much, as they only earn the same 7 points. Come up with better yeah, right. How about this? Here's the better content. What does rushing touchdowns have to do with anybody who's ever won a Super Bowl? Name me one. Name me one. One. Where a guy was dominant running the ball. That is, again, what James Jones was saying on Speak for Yourself. That's all he's saying. Jalen wins more. Okay. His team wins more. And when the team fell apart last year, he didn't win more. So if Jalen wins more, what happened last year, the last half of the season? The team sucked. Couldn't pull him out of it, could he? Because the team around him imploded. Right? And it's not fair to compare him. Well, you should compare him always to Mahomes. You should, but you guys get a little bit angst with that. Mahomes won a Super Bowl with an RPO. He sure did. He pulled it out when he needed it. In the 5th quarter of the Super Bowl. Let's take a look at that. How many rushing touchdowns? Hey, somebody, can you do me a favor? How many rushing touchdowns in the regular season last year did Patrick Mahomes have? I'd be interested to see that. Because somebody just said that he won a Super Bowl with RPOs. Yeah, he pulled it out when he needed it. He started running those RPOs because his running game wasn't going anywhere. That's a guy that adapts to the environment around him and knows. How's that? What do you think Mahomes had last year in rushing touchdowns? 3? You think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to run him in a Raider game? In the regular season? Okay? You think he's going to run? Oh, look at 215. He had no rushing touchdowns last year. Some RPO guy. So wait a minute. Mahomes had no rushing touchdowns. And Jalen had 15. There lies the gap. Oh, man. James Jones. He's only had 12 in it. So, hey, who said the RPO for Patrick Mahomes? He's had 12 rushing touchdowns in his entire NFL career. 12. Some RPO quarterback. And then he ran the RPO in the Super Bowl. He ran the RPO in the Super Bowl because he needed it. Oh, man. All right. I want to do something before we get Xander on here. But, Sills, can you honestly say Purdy has better arm talent than Hurts? Absolutely. Comparison quarterbacks has to count for a system. Philly's nowhere close to the West Coast timing system. Dude, that guy threw for 4,200 yards and 30 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts has never thrown for over 3,900 yards in his entire career and over 23 touchdowns. That guy's not a passer. And you got 2 1,000-yard receivers the last 2 years on your team. Purdy doesn't have that. You got more talent on your football team than any team in the league, and you don't utilize it to the max. Think about that. You got a number squad. Everybody gets their numbers. So the team stunk at the end of the year last year, but everyone got their numbers. That's what the 2023 season embodied. Dude, like I said, you know what my criticism is? And this is why I agree with James Jones, former wide receiver for the Packers. He's right. There's very few quarterbacks Jalen does more things better than it. There's just very few of them. So why not stick with what he did in 22? They refuse. And this goes back a little bit to the conversation we had yesterday. Same shit, same bat channel. They think they know better. We're going to find out. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Because I don't think he's good enough as a quarterback reading quarterback on reading defenses. I don't think he's good enough. It's why he was benched at Bama. And it's why he had turnovers last year, because they tried to make him into a drop-back kid. Couldn't pick up the blitzes. And again, play call. Okay. Sure. And like John McMullen said today, you have no excuses now. You got your experience. You have your players. It's over with. It's over. Here, I'm going to do this here. I'll probably redo this here with Xander a bit when we get him at the bottom of the hour. It's less than 2 weeks away to the start of training camp. Have the 2023 issues been addressed? Purdy was bad when the weapons went down, Dan. Okay. Okay. And Didn't they win 14 games last year? 13 games? Let me ask these simple questions here. And by the way, you don't have a lot of time in training camp. So it's over with now. You got to get yourself ready. And somehow, with the new terminology, in 2 weeks of training camp, get yourself ready to get to Brazil. Have the Eagles addressed the inexperienced coordinators of 2023? Yeah. They addressed it. They addressed it. Have they addressed better balance on offense? I think they're trying to with Barkley. They're hoping that he brings more in the run game. Right? Okay. Last year, you were not balanced, especially in the second half. Okay. He's in the second half now. I mean, in the second half of the season. Jalen, thank you, my friend. In the second half of the season, right? They weren't balanced. Have they addressed the pass rush? Kind of. I know John McMullen's really high on Bryce Huff because of his success rate on a shitty team. When you're playing from behind. Okay. We'll see what those numbers look like when you're the hunted, not a hunter. Once the Jets lost their quarterback, that team would imploded. James says, but can you agree that not considering a system and just stats akin to when people used to compare Young and or Montana stats to Marino's like completion and then said Marino was way worse? Here's the thing, James. You had a coach in Bill Walsh that knew the different styles of play and conformed an offensive system around Young compared to Steve. Joe Montana, after he got hit with that Jim Burt hit that separated his sternum, do you remember? They never ran him anymore. He wasn't moving around in the pocket. He wasn't getting out in the perimeter like he used to. He was a straight 6-7 step drop back guy. But when Young was able to do it, what happened? And by the way, James, I would even make this comparison to you. One of the things that probably contributed to Steve Young's short time as a starter in the league was the fact that he ran him a lot, and that ended his career because of the concussions. Remember something. Young left the game because of concussions, because of his ability to run. He didn't leave the game because of old age. He left the game because of concussions. If you look at his final season in the league, he had a great year going. Great year. And he couldn't come back because of concussions and numerous concussions. So he left the sport because his ability to run. And Bill Walsh led to a little bit of that, with the style of offense that they put around him. He was taking incredible hits. And by the way, that hit on Young would be illegal today. So there was a different style on how Walsh prepared those guys. Have you addressed the pass rush? Kind of. Kind of. Have you addressed the pass protection? I think pass protection last year wasn't very good. Barkley? Better? Probably. Have you addressed the turnovers? Yet to be seen. Have you addressed third down pass defense? Yeah. Now, will it succeed? Has to be something that plays itself out. But they've addressed it. You can't begrudge the front office. They've addressed it. Okay? Have they addressed sideline communication? Better communicating between the offense and defense? Quarterback and coordinator? Remember what Kellen Moore said in the offseason here? He said, hey, communicating and having a smooth running operation will be key to the success. Okay? JM goes, yes, even though Jalen Hurts says that the terminology's no. Okay? Have you addressed the linebacker position? Kind of. And have you addressed the team? We'll see. Dan, Patrick Mahomes himself said he expects to face Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl in future many times. How can the greatest quarterback in the NFC respect Hurts, but you don't? It's got nothing to do with respecting Jalen Hurts. It has nothing to do with it. Respecting Jalen Hurts? Where did you, what? Because I talk the way I do, you think I don't respect him? That's a you thing, guy. And Patrick Mahomes says that about everybody. Joe Burrow, Allen, all of them. He's a class kid. He's a class guy. He's a class guy. Kobe expected to face LeBron in the finals, but it never happened. Okay. Hey. Number one, great. I'm glad you do. And I'm okay with, hey, my friend, I agree with James Jones. You can have him. Not my style. It's just not my style. I feel like we learn nothing watching Sills. I think we're the ones teaching him. Literally jumps on YouTube and type in Philadelphia Eagles. Hey, Prince, this wasn't my take. These are some of the national people's takes. When I was talking about Jalen Hurts, that was a James Jones take. Okay? That was James Jones's take. So you're making James Jones's take mine? And again, it's a you thing. Josh Allen's a superior. Dude, nobody ever thinks outside of Philly that Jalen Hurts is better than Allen. Nobody. I don't think he would lie. Dude, whatever. Kobe said the same thing, and I agree. I remember when Kobe said that. I was going to face LeBron many times in finals. Never happened. Hey, James Jones, isn't it funny? The wide receiver from the Packers makes that comment, but these guys make it sound like I'm hating on him because the guy made a comment that Dak does everything better than Hurts. And then they bring up the winning. Well, every one of these quarterbacks that are the highest paid guys in the league, 95% of them all have losing records in the postseason. So when you throw Dak's name into that conversation with him being 2-5, well, Lamar Jackson's got 2 MVPs and he's 2-4. What's the difference between Dak and Lamar? Yet some of you look at Lamar in a higher light. Why? Because the MVPs? Okay. Is he Does Lamar Jackson do one thing better than the read option than Dak? No. He's never thrown for over 3,200 yards. How about this one again? Cousins. Look down Cousins' list of years he's had. Is it his problem that he was in Washington and Minnesota and didn't have an organization that wants to build a team around him? They had Justin Jefferson just made $35 million because of Kirk Cousins. Twiz doesn't get it. Once again, you're paid on stats. You're not paid on wins. Twiz, you're not paid on wins. That was the case. Garoppolo would be the richest guy in the league. Or some of these other guys. Hey, no one would ever say that Kirk Cousins has been paid because he won a lot. $378 million. You also agree with Eskin? On what? I speak facts. What are your facts? What's the facts that you speak, Prince? What facts do you speak? What facts are you speaking that I'm not speaking? James Jones, did you make the Hall? No. I thought it was an interesting comedy made. Cousins is a genius. He's made more money than any quarterback in the National Football League. $378 million. No quarterback in NFL history has made more than him. And what's his record in the postseason? He's 1-3. What's that tell you? Were you paid on winning? Okay. Oh. Yeah, and again, I do want to start this off here. By the way, let's bring Xander in here. I haven't heard yet from my friend Gary Cobb, but don't forget, 4:55 in the morning each and every single Monday through Friday, right after Farzetta, who starts off our broadcasting day here on JAKIB Sports. Those guys do such a great job. And by the way, it's filled with content here. And Xander, let me first start it out by saying this to you. By the way, good afternoon to you, brother.
What's up, Big Sills? What's up, everybody in the chat? How you guys doing?
So John said something interesting when he was talking to you about terminology. And he said that Jalen said that 95% of the offense was new. And John said, and John's out there. He's out there every single time that the media get an opportunity to go out there and watch them practice. So I'm taking it for verbatim, and I completely think he does a great job. He said this is more terminology. So when I heard him say that, that made me all of a sudden pause for a bit and say, so wait a minute. Jalen's got to learn new terminology, and he's got to learn Kellen Moore's terminology. Wouldn't it be the reverse? That the coordinator would be trying to fit the terminology to what the quarterback knows already to make that transition a little more seamless? Why does Jalen have to learn a new terminology page and a new terminology sheet when you know, quite frankly, Xander, you said it perfectly this morning. You don't have the time in training camp any longer to work the kinks out. You're not going to use the exhibition season to sit there and try to work and understand what this means, a strong side left, a right side left, when last year it meant something complete. It's almost a confusion that you have to overcome going into camp before you even install the offense. I mean, how did you take that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's an interesting point. Why does Jalen have to learn everything and not Kellen have to change up any of his stuff? But I think that's typical. Is that typical in the NFL? I mean, I don't know enough. I think, though, some of these coordinators that have been in multiple places, I don't think they go around and they change their stuff. I think that's part of the reason that they're an enticing hire is that they have their own offensive system. They have at least an idea of how they want to be successful in the NFL. And I think that's part of it. I mean, you do make a good point, though. Why does Jalen have to learn everything? Now, the one interesting thing about that comment, too, is how much of that was embellished in a way to where Jalen might be trying to lower the pressure, which is okay. I'm okay with you
Or how
playing the
about
game.
frustration?
Yeah, lower the frustration, but I think it's more about the expectation. I mean, if he comes out, the first 4 weeks and he struggles in the offense, what are people going to say now? If he never made that comment, people are going to be like, this sucks. This is a continuation of last year. This is brutal. Versus if you come out now and you're struggling, we're getting this offense down. We're trying to learn the new offense. It's taking some time to click, or we planted the roots of our flowers, whatever analogy they want to use. They'll now be able to use that. And I think it was more business savvy to make that type of comment than it probably tells us about how much they're learning that's new. I mean, I'm sure they're learning some new stuff, but they're not going to get rid of everything. I think Kellen's going to have to probably learn some new stuff too. I don't know how much. I mean, we'll never have the insides, but
I don't think on the other side of the ball, Vic's changing much.
You mean terminology wise?
Yeah.
Well, that's because, to be fair, that's because every coordinator we've had has been a disciple of Vic Fangio since Jim Schwartz. I mean, we've had every coordinator has been that. I mean, that's what, that's what Jonathan Gannon was. That's what Sean Desai. Sean Desai worked directly for Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio speaks highly of him, so they're probably.
Why wouldn't you have done that on the offensive side, though, to make that transition a little bit seamless too, that you're doing with the defense? Because I agree that there's a lot of the similarities. Well, when I heard John say this morning that was more terminology, 95% different for Jalen. Well, I don't think there's going to be a 95%, like you just said, different terminology on the defensive side, that transition. And that may be why Xander, those guys performed exceptionally well, because some of the things that they were being shown were some of the things that they were comfortable and familiar with and the terminology with. That's why they were able to jump the offense, where the offense is learning new language and new verbiage. It just seems to me, again, why would you slow the process of transition and make it slower on one side of the ball when on the defensive side of the ball, they seemingly did the right thing? I think Vic's the right hire.
I do too. I feel great about Vic, honestly. I mean, even with the defensive concerns, I mean, I've been high on Vic, and you talk about it, then you almost like get into a lull period, which is why ever since I've been the host of content, I mean, it's tough when you're up here. You realize why it's hard to not flip flop at times. I mean, I just want everybody listening. How often does your mind change? It changes all the time. I mean, that's just life. I mean, that's about anything. That could be about where you want to live. That could be about who you want to marry. That could be about anything. So, to that point, I'm like,
how you see people,
everything changes constantly. So when you're putting it on record, it's tough. But in a way, I've talked myself into Vic, and Bill Colarulo comes on and he's like, he gives me 10 questions, and I'm like, shit, this entire defense is potential. All of it, the whole thing. You're hoping that Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis can pick up the slack for Fletcher Cox's absence, and they can take another step. You're hoping that Milton Williams can have a bigger role. You're hoping that Bryce Huff can be what Hassan Reddick was. You're hoping Nolan Smith is lives up to his first round grade. You're hoping that Devin White reincarnates somehow as all pro season. You're hoping that Zach Bond isn't a scrub off the list. You're hoping that CJ Gardner-Johnson stays healthy. You're hoping that the young cornerbacks play well. You're hoping Darius Slay doesn't take a drop at 34 years old. I mean, it's tough. So, it'll be interesting to see. But to your point, I do think Vic was the right hire, and I'm hoping he can pull the most out of him. What my worry with Vic is, I would like to see that have some time, even if it's beyond this year. I don't want more change. But if the team, especially on the defensive side, right? Like I think he's a good guy to keep for 3 years if this is your guy. The problem is if the team doesn't reach expectations and they fire Nick, by default, Vic is going to be gone. They're not going to keep a defensive coordinator for a new coach. I mean, I can't think of a coach that would take a job and be like, okay, thanks for picking my defensive coordinator for me. So That's the tough part about it. But I think Vic is the right guy. I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him here for a couple of years.
Can I tell you what I think is going to happen if the team does have success on defense? I think what they'll end up doing is this. How old is Vic Fangio? 70? He's like 69, 70, like that, somewhere up there? Is that you mean? Yeah. Like what is his age?
65.
He's 65. Okay, let's just say in 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah.
The defense, because he stays there, it's 3 years. I'd like to see them extend Clint Hurt and have the transition of Clint Hurt turning into being the defensive coordinator of
That's
the
good.
Eagles.
You think Clint Hurt has that type of upside?
He was the defensive coordinator in Seattle. Okay,
did we hire him as a DC?
Yeah, he was the DC there in Seattle.
Was he like an assistant DC, or he was the actual?
He was the defensive coordinator in Seattle.
Wait, so he took a step down basically?
Well, no, year? Remember they had a transition. A brand new head coach came in, and he was not retained.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, he was the former defensive coordinator up there in Seattle.
Yeah, yep, they was. That's true.
And then they made the transition to the new coach, and the new coach wanted to bring his own people in, which is okay. And remember something, they were a playoff contending team. They beat the Eagles a year ago.
Yeah.
And then also the year before that, they were a playoff team. I mean,
that was a controversial game this year when they beat us.
And he's also a disciple of Pete Carroll. And to me, I mean, I like him. He's got a lot of really great stuff around him. Now, will he stay and not get a DC job somewhere else? I'd like to see the Eagles try to cement that down to keep him in that building for a bit, kind of like a Jeff Stoutland. You know what I'm saying? Have him in that building there. So something to that extent there. Do you think they're going to have enough time, in your opinion? Do you think you're going to have enough time to write this offense this preseason?
My default answer is no. But how much does the talent on offense make up for the gap that you're trying to reach? You know, if you have an average NFL offense, I'm thinking it's 8 weeks. But when you have top 2 of the top 10 receivers in the NFL, when you have Dallas Goedert, when you have Saquon Barkley, when you have a top 5 offensive line, I mean, can it take 4 weeks? Does the talent help you that much? I think potentially it does. And that's where I think Kellen's going to have to kind of be open to what they were doing before, simply for the ramp up period. You know what I mean? You need to create an offense that can win some games. You can't just come out and lose 4 games. I mean, they have to have a
combo of 22 and 23.
I want Jalen Hurts to be in it comfortable. I mean, you can't. I love your new offense, but we also have to win games. I mean, you have to make it to the playoffs. You have to win the NFC East. You can't just come out, with a game plan that I'm hoping this clicks one day. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm like, I think they'll bridge it in a way. They'll probably start slow with less stuff, and they'll continue to add to the offense as it gets later in the year, which I think is a good thing. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, throwing new looks, getting new things going later in the year, that's a good thing. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, the offense is going to be interesting. The biggest concern with it is what you just said. I mean, how long is it going to take to get this thing going? And is Kellen Moore the right guy for Jalen Hurts? That's yet to be determined.
Outside of Jalen Hurts in this conversation, would you agree that 2 of the biggest names that will be part of the success of this football team will be Jalen Carter and Cam Jurgens? And here's where I go with this. Jalen Carter in stopping the run, and Cam Jurgens in establishing the run and pass protection. Jalen Carter in pass rushing. Do you agree that these 2 young men here could be really the linchpins for the success or failure? Because if both those guys don't live up to what the expectations are, one guy's replacing Jason Kelsey. The other guy's replacing Fletcher Cox. You struggled in running the ball last year in pass protection. Jalen Carter ran out of gas, and you ran out of pass rush, especially interior.
Yeah, definitely interior.
If these 2 guys live up to who they are, your season could be determined by the success of these 2 men. True or false?
I would say false. I think true with the guy on the defensive side. I would say true about Jalen Carter. I would not say true about Cam Jurgens for this reason. I think the offensive line is good enough that if he's not able to reach optimal play this year, you can blend it in a way. And I don't think our offense. I think our offense falls much more on the shoulders of Jalen Hurts than it does on Cam Jurgens. Cam Jurgens can be a mediocre center,
I said
and with
outside of Hurts.
okay, so outside of Hurts, yeah, I hear you. I mean, I still don't think it because Cam Jurgens can be a middle of the pack center, which I think he's going to be. I mean, I haven't seen that yet, but he was
I
pretty
think
good
he's
at
going to
guard
be a
last
Pro
year.
Bowler.
Yeah, he was pretty good at guard last year. Like you could almost say he's
He was an
proven it in a
alternate.
way. Yeah, alternate Pro Bowler. So, I don't
Here's
know.
why.
Don't
Here's why I
you
say
think though, if he doesn't play great, he can blend in a little bit with? I mean, dude's got Landon Dickerson and Jordan Mailata on his left, and he's
it
got
didn't
Lane
matter
Johnson
last
out on
year
his
though
right.
when they had all the blitzes coming at him, and
Yeah,
it
which
didn't
is an
matter.
interesting topic. I got to be honest. We love saying this is a top 5 O-line, and look, I believe it is as well, but same O-line couldn't deal with the blitz at all last year.
Couldn't deal,
I
and
don't know if
and
that's
the
more on
hits
the
on the
quarterback.
quarterback were third in the league.
Is that more on the quarterback? You think the quarterback was holding that
I
ball
think
longer
that's
than,
on the quarterback trying to read open wide receivers and trying to find the open guy and having more time in the pocket there, and that's why they went away from throwing the ball after Goddard got hurt. They went away from throwing the ball across the middle of the field, and they only threw the numbers.
Right.
Because they were not comfortable with him sitting back in the pocket. You know what he had a little last year, Xander? He had a little once to him. Patting the ball, sitting in the pocket. The only difference is that Jalen's got a little bit better pocket presence on being able to escape, more so than what Wentz had. Wentz is always looking down the field, which you should. You're schooled at.
Yeah.
But Jalen has used that skill set so much, being able to get out of the front side or back door. He knows how to move around a lot better than what Wentz did. But again, he was third in the amount of blitzes that they sent at him. He was third in quarterback hits last year. So, I say this to you, and I'm going to get to this in a bit. Everyone keeps telling me how great this offensive line is, but last year, how could you be a great O-line when your quarterback was hit the third most of any quarterbacks in the league, and you were blitzed third most of any offensive line in the league? Now, again, is that on the entire line? No. Is that on your shitty running backs that Howie brought in? Yes. There's something there. And plus, Jalen not being able to see it. Jason Kelsey said an interesting comment about 2 months ago. I was telling him where the blitzes were coming from, and he still couldn't pick it up. You think that improves with Cam Jurgens?
No, I don't. I don't think it does at all, but it's got to improve with the quarterback. I mean,
okay,
this is where, and John said this, and I agree with him, because Stoutland kind of came out, and same with the offensive coordinator, that Cam Jurgens is going to be assuming the role of blitz pickup and some of those reads at the line. I would rather that be Jalen Hurts. I really would, just because I think it leads to more long-term success, leads to more long-term stability. Now, it doesn't seem like they're going that route. So you're
Can I tell you who
banking.
I would do? Can I tell you who I would do?
Yeah, you'd say Landon, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know why? Wasn't Landon a center at one time?
Yeah, center at Alabama.
One of the greatest plays of all time in Nick Saban's career, putting that guy in when he was banged up in that national title game.
Absolutely.
That was a total dope move. It shows you the respect level, Xander, that he had for Landon Dickerson by putting him in there like that. But to me, I would have Landon make those calls because Landon has seen that. He knows that. Or how about this? Maybe split the duty.
Yeah, but then you don't have continuity.
Okay.
Now you're in the issue of who's calling it. I mean, you're creating another problem that doesn't need to exist with that type of thing.
I think that's the limits that your quarterback has, though.
Yeah, that's
he
true.
has struggled with blitz pickup since he's been in the league.
Yes, he has. He's also 25.
Okay.
You can't. I get it. He's played a lot of football games, and at some point it is. But it is one of those. That's one of those actual things that you get better with age.
Brady struggled with internal pressure too at times in games.
And he talks about how long it took him. I mean, that's why he was so good in his 40s, because he had it down to a science. Like arm strength, yeah, that's going to go down over years. All the other things of a quarterback mostly go the other way. Reading defenses, picking up blitzes, responding to things like that, You get better at that over time. You become more of a man. You become an adult. You learn. You see things like it all comes quick. He's only 25 in that regard, and I think we should give him a little bit more time. But you're right. I mean, that's a deficiency. He has shown, or at least the Eagles have shown, that they don't want to put the burden on his shoulders, and that could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. It's really all on Cam Jurgens. What they're not going to do though is split the calls. It's going to be Cam Jurgens, and he's either going to be good at it or he's not.
So you're saying it's either going to be Cam or it's going to be Jalen, and Jalen's going to have one of those two guys.
Nobody from the inside the Eagles has insinuated that it would be Jalen Hurts, not Jalen, not Kellen Moore, not Nussmeier, and not Jeff Allen, who really said it was going to be Cam Jurgens.
Okay, I agree
here with JM though. I mean, you can't have your center hold your hand forever. I mean, if Cam Jurgens got hurt last year, he hasn't been a historically healthy player. He's young. He could be healthy. I'm just saying. This is a guy that hasn't played a full season yet in the NFL. If he goes down, are you telling me we have nobody to pick up blitzes because the quarterback isn't competent enough to do it? That's a problem. So I think he's attacking it. I think he's going to get better. But JM, to your point, I 100% agree. Can't have that crutch forever, dude. You can't. You just can't.
I want to play something for you here before we get into some of these comments and some of these topics about addressing issues here going into camp. And I want to play this for you. And this is the show that Joy's on. It's called Speak for Yourself on FS1. And it's James Jones, who's one of the hosts. And I think it's shady in the background. I'm sorry that the audio is a little bit down here, but I'm going to play it here for you.
The player. There's nothing that Jalen Hurts does better than Dak Prescott at the quarterback spot with the read option. He don't throw better than him. He don't throw with anticipation better than him. I mean, this dude was 5,000 yards last year, led the NFL in touchdown pass. There's nothing Jalen Hurts except running the read option and maybe the tush push that he does better than Dak Prescott. And I like Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts is going to be a really good quarterback in this league. But Dak Prescott, at this point right now in the National Football League, does everything better than Jalen Hurts at that quarterback spot.
Does he win better?
Is it a team goal or are we talking about a quarterback?
Okay. How do you take that comment by James Jones?
I mean, some of it is fair, if we're being honest, right?
Yeah, completely.
I think that.
No, wait. Putting it's hard to in a team sport, and I get what Shady's saying. Putting that aside, team sport. Hey, dude, this is not tennis or golf. I get it, bowling, what have you. Okay, gymnastics.
Right.
But as a skill set player, I think James is saying, name me one thing that Jalen Hurts does better than Dak Prescott outside the read option.
Well, Jalen Hurts has been a starter in the NFL for 3 seasons. 3 seasons.
3 years.
He has been in an NFC title game. He is an NFC champion. He has delivered one of his finest performances as a pro in the Super Bowl. He lost. I get it. But it's like the Brady versus Rodgers talk. I don't care that Dak Prescott's better. That doesn't mean you're gonna take me to the promised land, that you can throw the ball at a target 20 yards away a little bit better than I can. I get it. All right, great. I mean, that's what we're judging their quarterbacks, but Jalen Hurts has proven to me that he can win at the highest level. Jalen Hurts has proven to me that when things are right around him, which I know it's a big if.
He's 2-3 in the postseason.
Yes, but he's also 3 years in the league. What's Dak Prescott? And he's 9 years in the league.
He's 2-5.
He's 2-5. And when the bigger the game, the worse the guy plays. The guy got thumped last year by the upswinging Green Bay Packers with a first-year starting quarterback. Not just lost, he got obliterated.
How do you go from playing like that in the Super Bowl to playing like that against Baker Mayfield?
That's fair. It's a fair question. And that's the concern as we enter the year, is that's the first time we've seen Jalen Hurts go the wrong way. And we need to see it now. We need to make sure that he's going to continue to, ascend in his NFL career. This is one of the bigger questions of the season, I would say, and that's a fair question. But to your point, I've never even seen it with Dak. Dak had the number one offense in the NFL. He couldn't even go to an NFC title
But
game.
this
They
was
haven't even made it out of the
but this
second
is a
round.
skill set question, not a team question. I
Yeah, but
get
it's a
that.
team game, brother.
This is okay. Again, he was asked a skill set question. Name me one thing Dak, as a starting quarterback, as a skill set, does better than Dak
No,
outside
Jalen,
of
yeah.
running what that one play he runs. He doesn't do anything better. Now, I liked your comment, and you said, okay, Sills, he does a couple more things better. But when he is a guy who knows how to win around with his players better than what Dak knows how to win around his players, do I think there's something to that? I sure do. I don't think you can just dismiss that and go, who's a better athlete? Well, the better athlete would always say this. Aaron Rodgers is a better athlete than Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. But would I take Aaron Rodgers over Peyton Manning or Tom Brady?
No,
Absolutely not.
absolutely not. I mean, if I'm playing schoolyard recess and I get a little draft, yeah, sure, maybe I'll pick Dak Prescott. But then I'll give you one quote from one of my favorite all-time movies. And I've used quotes from this movie before, and I am not a movie person, by the way. I do not watch movies. This is an all-time classic movie. It's my favorite of all time. I've been watching since I was a little kid. I probably watched it 300 times. Miracle. Herb Brooks says, I'm not looking for the best players, Craig. I'm looking for the right ones. And that's exactly how I feel about the quarterback position. I'm not looking for the guy that can thread the needle the best from 30 yards out. That's great if you can do that, but that's not what's going to win me a trophy. That's not what's going to make us champions in the city of Philadelphia. It's just not. All the examples are out there for everybody to see. Tom Brady is not the most talented quarterback to ever play on football.
Ever. No.
He is not. Now, he's now viewed as the GOAT because of what he's accomplished. But there's a lot of players out there who have been far more talented than many other players in the league, and they never amounted to shit. So what do you want? Do you want the Dallas Cowboy regular season trophies? Do you want the 5,000 passing yard accolades so talk show hosts can say you're a great passer? Do you want all of those things that ultimately don't mean squat other than that you're going to get a good paycheck, which is why they're doing this, so I get it. Or do you want the player that has proven he can win when the lights are the brightest, who can throttle teams in the playoffs, who can go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl? I mean, I'll take that guy. Now, the sample size isn't huge, admittedly, so we need to see more of it. But just going off what I've seen, I mean, shit, I'll take Jalen Hurts. I really will. But, I mean, yeah, if you're going back to the skill set question, I guess Dak's better than Jalen.
How about this? So it's a meaningless conversation, and when it comes to team sports, in your opinion?
I would say so.
Yeah, but that's how you're paid too, you know.
Yeah, and that's what I said. That factors into it. I mean, Dak, I think, is perfectly fine saying, I don't care. I'm getting $60 million because I throw for 4,500 yards every year.
And he's 2-5 in the postseason.
And he's okay with that. And you know what? Have that. But as a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles, I could give a shit. I could give a shit what you make. I care about what you do when we want to win. You know, and that's where I think Jalen Hurts has him beat. And like I said, it's a smaller sample size. I get it. It's not like he's had 5 straight years here of winning playoff games. But when we did see it, we saw it. And with Dak Prescott, we got a longer sample size, and I haven't seen nothing from him.
Explain how Dak, a.k.a. Cowboy, had a top 3 defense and offense, but still lost in the playoffs while the Eagles were spinning out of control. Again,
that's the point.
That's
okay. Part of the point.
But again, the question wasn't about team. It was about someone saying, what does Dak or what does Jalen do better as a skill set player at that respected position? Now, remember something. When James Jones is talking, Xander, he's talking as a former wide receiver because he's paid on those numbers and he's paid on individual skill set. NFL players are going to be different and have a different conversation. They're not going to put team around it. You're not paid, again, in that league by what your team does if they win 12 or 13 games. I mean, like I said, I want to show you this.
Yeah, but what are
Trevor
we
Lawrence.
talking about here? Are we talking about earning a contract or are we talking about winning games? Like
The question was skill
this
set
fucking
player.
clown in the chat. I guess stop being a homer. Dak ain't the problem. All right, buddy. Enjoy your regular season trophies with your quarterback who hasn't done anything when it matters. You had a number 1 offense. You had a top 3 defense, as Prince points out in the super chat, and you haven't done shit. So you can tell me I'm a homer all I want. I'm objectively speaking. If I was an NFL GM right now and I was picking quarterbacks, I'll take the younger Jalen Hurts, who has proven more in 3 years than Dak Prescott has in 9 years. That's what I'm saying. Call me a homer all you want. I don't really care. That's the truth. If I was a fan of another team or I was born somewhere else, I'd say the exact same thing.
Then
And
how
that's
how does a guy like Cousins at 36 get 48 million bucks?
Well, because there's a lot of teams in the NFL, Dan, that live in oblivion with quarterbacks. And it's a very hard thing to get right. It really is. This is why Green Bay, John always says, nobody understands how the other side lives in Green Bay. They've had Hall of Fame quarterback play for 30 plus years. They went from Favre to Rodgers, and now it looks like they're going to go to Love. They don't understand the other side. So that's why. That's why there's a market. There's always going to be a market for the 4,500-yard guys. I don't care.
Do you want to hear in Green Bay? How about this? In the last 32 years, 97% of the snaps at quarterback have come from 3 guys.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Green Bay is unbelievable.
97% of the snaps. But look at this here. I just want to show you something here to the point of what that question really was. And again, maybe it's a dissected question here. Trevor Lawrence, 1-1 in the postseason. Joe Burrow, Super Bowl appearance, L, 5-2, winning postseason record. Jared Goff just got a $53 million annual deal. He's 4-4, Super Bowl appearance, an L. Justin Herbert just got a $52.5 million deal. He's 0-1. Lamar just got a $52 million contract. He's 2-4. Jalen Hurts has got a $51 million contract. He's 2-3, Super Bowl appearance, L. Murray got a $46.1 million deal. He's 0-1. Deshaun Watson got a $46 million deal. He's 1-2 in the postseason. Cousins got a $45 million deal. He's 1-3. And of course, Mahomes, they're at 10. It's 15-3. Dak's 2-5. There is only one.
Is Mahomes 15-3?
Yeah.
In the postseason?
Yeah, he's 15-3.
Dude, that guy is absolutely.
I can't even remember I think one of the losses was to Brady when he was up in New England. And they remember the onside kick? The Patriots got it and they ended up going in. I think they beat him there in Kansas City.
Mahomes, man.
I think Burrows beat him in the postseason.
Yeah, Burrow won. Yeah, well, that's when the Burrow went to the when
Yeah.
he went to the Super Bowl versus the Rams. Yeah, they beat him. That's true, and I agree. I mean, look, your point is very good one. I mean, when you pay your quarterback, folks, that doesn't mean you're there, man. It really does not mean you're there. Now, I will agree here with X's and O's, who says postseason record's really not a quarterback stat. It's way too reductionist. It is, because if you don't win a Super Bowl, you're going to be pretty close to 500, right? I mean, if I make it to the playoffs and I win game 1 and I lose game 2, I'm 1-1. If I win the first 2 and I lose in the conference final, I'm 2-1. You're going to be close to 500 if you don't win a Super Bowl. That's why Mahomes is so high up there. So it is reductionist thinking for sure, but it's crazy. I mean,
do you have to get to a Super Bowl, Xander, or do you have to win the Super Bowl to validate these contracts?
I don't think
or does it have anything to do with it?
Is that it goes back to my point about Dak Prescott. It doesn't matter.
Like, what's he validated?
Like, these guys are all going to get paid no matter what. And look at it. You just gave me 10 names of dudes who are making $45 million plus, and not one of them has real tangible postseason success outside of Patrick Mahomes, and it looks like kind of Joe Burrow, who's gotten off to a very good start early in his career. I mean, I don't care. Like, I don't care how good you are. I don't care how many yards you throw for. I'm not looking for the best players. I'm looking for the right ones. And I feel pretty good that we have the right one in Jalen Hurts. Maybe, look, if he can't do it this year, yeah, I think we're opening up a big box, a Pandora's box of, like, it's time to have the conversation. Can he ascend? Can he get back to form? But I'm not ready to go there yet. Last season was too much of a shit show in every front for me to go down that route. I feel pretty good about the quarterback. I mean, you just listed off the names of all the guys who are getting top paid contracts. Outside of Mahomes, outside of Burrow, outside of Allen, because I think he has shown he can play in the big games. I mean, I have Hurts as a top 10-ish quarterback, talent-wise, but I might take him top 5 in terms of guys that I want on my squad. I really do. I mean, I really mean that. I don't even know if that's homerish. What other guy is proven that they can win when the lights are the brightest this early in his career? Not many. Not many.
Before I ask you some of these questions here, I gotta throw this at you here. I had Herb Brooks on years ago before he passed away.
Wow, did you?
Yeah, oh my God.
goodness.
Yeah, well, him and Ruzioni, I had all those guys from that 80 team on, and I used to oh my God, I'm friends with Jim Craig.
Oh
I'm
my
best
God.
friends with Jim Craig.
Jimmy Craig.
Hey, I am best friends with him, and he used to come on my show, and I watched an NHL finals with him and Bobby Orr. I'd post that picture all the time. You know why he said I'd look for the right 20? Because in 1960, he was the 20th guy, and then the coach, when they went to Lake Placid in 19, by the way, it's funny, Lake Placid,
Yeah, he got cut.
Lake Placid in 80, he called him in and said, I'm changing you out and I'm putting another guy in, and he sent him home.
Yeah.
And he goes, that stuck with him the entire time when he coached the University of Minnesota and when he coached the national team. And I think even the Minnesota North Stars when he coached him.
Yeah, have you never seen that movie?
Oh, I've seen it a ton of times.
Yeah, because they highlight that very much so in the movie, and he had to do it in a similar situation. He had to send somebody home right before Lake Placid. Ralph Cox, for anybody that knows the movie, got sent home. So yeah, it's a great story. That's awesome. Big Sills, you know everybody.
Hey,
there is nobody more connected than I wish I could show some of the chatters, the Rolodex in my phone from all the people that you've connected me with. I have names in my phone that I never thought would ever be in my phone that are in here. Even guys that we've never been able to get on, but we've at least been in contact with. I mean, Big Sills is a connected guy, that's for sure.
Oh man, I loved Herb Brooks. He was absolutely awesome. The assistant coach too went on to win, I think, a Stanley Cup somewhere with Pittsburgh. If I'm not mistaken, Herb Brooks, just remember the name on the front of the jersey more important than the one on the back of the jersey. Love it. By the way, Charlie,
through your head. I love that movie,
Coach K uses that one too. So let me ask you a couple questions here. Now, the 2023 issues, have they been addressed as we're 2 weeks out from training camp here? Inexperienced coordinators, did the organization address it?
They certainly addressed the experience issue. Now, whether they're the right ones is a different question, but definitely addressed the experience. Yep.
Better balance on offense. You think they'll be more balanced? Do you think they addressed what we'll see this coming season with the addition of Barkley with more balance?
I would hope so, because I think, that was one of the problems that we had last year. I know everybody loves to put it on Brian Johnson. Collapses on Brian Johnson is just it's foolish. It's foolish to say that when you have that type of talent on the roster. So balance would be good. I think it would help everybody. Maybe there's a small reduction in numbers for guys like AJ and Devontae, but so be it. I mean, balance will help, I think, and it will create a team that is more ready and able to win when it's crunch time, which is late in the season, January, and you got to win games, and you're going into the playoffs or wherever you're going, or you're home, whatever it is, you got to have a balanced offense. You got to be able to switch it up. I think that will help the team a lot. I hope they have it, but we'll see on that one.
Do you believe that they've addressed the lack of pass rush that we had last year?
No, I don't. I mean, how could I? I mean, you lose Hassan Reddick, who was your number one sack guy the last 2 years. Josh Sweat kind of fell off a cliff late in the year last year. Now, he played way too many snaps, but I'm not really confident in him as being a staple type of pass rush guy. Nolan Smith showed you absolutely nothing in year one. I'm not ready to write him off, but I'm also not ready to say he's going to make up, for the loss of Hassan Reddick. So, and Brandon Graham's 35. So, no, I don't think we addressed that position at all enough. And this is back to the defense. It's back to the point earlier. I mean, there's so many question marks there we're going to see. But to answer the question, no, I don't think they've addressed the pass rush like at least losing Hassan Reddick. I don't even think you answered that.
Have they addressed the run defense, in your opinion?
Or
how about this, Xander? Does that come with more reps with Carter?
That's where I was going. They didn't address it with a personnel player. They didn't go out and sign somebody. But does Jordan Davis getting a bigger role and being more ready to play, does that
Another
fix it?
year?
Yeah, another year. Does Jalen Carter taking his next step, does that help it? Milton Williams is coming in. I think I think that's one that you could assume they'll get better just from young players ascending.
Do you believe that they have addressed the pass protection on the team? Remember,
Well,
third and blitzes and third and quarterback hits. The quarterback was hit in pass protection this last year. Can I tell you why? Remember, when you're moving around and you're a mobile quarterback and you're a pass protector, you don't know where the guy is. The pocket's constantly evolving. When you're a 7-step guy and you're sitting back there, you know he's back there. I think it's harder to block for what they did in 22 because Jalen was able to run more and it hit it. When he had to sit back in that pocket back there, it made it easier for the defenders to find him. And that meant more hits on the quarterback, which exposed either your running back's not picking up blitz coverage because of the high volume of blitzing, or it showed a little bit of some of the deficiencies, especially at right guard when it came to pass protection. So do you believe that they've addressed that with Kellen Moore here and also the addition of Barkley, who's considered one of the better pass protecting running backs?
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll be good at
you
it.
You think they'll be better?
I think more of it falls on Jalen Hurts than most would believe. I know. Obviously, your offensive line matters, how long they can block the guys. I get it, but it all ties together, right? I mean, if Jalen Hurts is struggling to read the defenses, that means Jalen Hurts it's going to take him another second to read where to go with the football or to get the team into the right play pre-snap read. If he can't do that, what's he going to do? He's going to hold the ball longer. If he holds the ball longer, what's that do? That creates the pass rush, more opportunities for the pass rush. So I think it's more on Jalen Hurts than we're leading on to believe. But I think it'll be improved just because I think the offensive line is so good that it's almost you return back to the norm in a way where I think they'll pick it up. I think they'll be better. I think they'll know it's a problem. Hurts will probably hopefully get the ball out a little quicker this year. Back to that 22 form, Dan. He was 2.4 seconds to release, man, in 24. He was all the way up over 3 last year. And then go back to his rookie year, or not his rookie year, the first year as a starter, he was up in that 3 range. So he got really low in that MVP season. He's definitely got to get back to that.
Can you address turnovers in the offseason? Is there a way to address turnovers? Isn't it what you just said? Get the ball out of his hands quicker.
Yeah, but they're also, that's a double-edged sword. I mean, if he's getting it out of his hands quicker and throwing it into more risky plays, you might increase your turnovers by doing it that way. But
the years that he got the ball out of his hands quicker, he had less turnovers.
Exactly. So that's where you would say, what I've seen, that will help. Definitely. I think John's right on this. John talked about it on Birds 365 this morning where, every year of Jalen Hurts' career, he has been relatively safe with the football. He never really was a turnover guy all the way back college. Never was a big turnover guy. Yeah, and I think there's a fair explanation that a regression to the mean will happen there. You even saw it with Dak Prescott, who had 15 interceptions that one year and he didn't even play the full season, and then he returned back to 8 or 9 interceptions. So I think Jalen will lower that number down simply because he knows it was a problem. It cost us games last year. You can't win in the NFL when you're not winning in the turnover margin. It's one of the best indicators for winning and losing a football game. Ask Philly Godfather, who is everybody might not like Philly Godfather. He's a guy who puts his money behind his opinions. So he looks at this stuff, and turnover is one of the biggest indications of who's going to win the football game. So you got to win the turnover margin. I think Jalen knows that. Now, JM brings up a good point. The fumbles are a bit of a concern. I mean, that's not even interceptions we're talking. That's talking fumbles. That's talking putting the ball on the ground. It cost us in the biggest moment in the Super Bowl. Good point, JM. But I think he lowers that number. He has to. If he doesn't, we're in trouble. He has to lower that number.
Couple more for you here. Have they addressed third down pass defense?
Well, I think they addressed it with personnel, but you didn't address it with surefire things. or surefire might not be the right word. You didn't address it with, proven commodities, but you loaded the room up. We didn't have this type of depth last year. Now you got a whole litany of guys that could potentially get the job.
I'm okay with what they've done.
I am too, because it's not like the alternative would have been worse, where you go out and you start spending crazy money on guys that are probably not worth what they're going to make.
Don't you think you have to validate? You have to validate it in the fall.
Exactly. Now we loaded up a bunch of young guys. They're all under contract for the next couple of years. I think 2025, I'm not ready to look at 2025 that yet, but I will say I think the pass defense in 2025 will be the best of the last 5 years. I think it's going to be a big defense. I think it's going to be physical with Keely Ringo, Quinyon Mitchell. I think it's going to be very good, but 24 is a little bit of a rip the Band-Aid off kind of year. A lot of these young guys who haven't played a lot of snaps are going to be getting a lot of snaps. So it'll be interesting to see. I think that's more of a long-term fix that they made. I hope that they'll improve on it this year, because they were so bad at it last year. I mean, you can't go down, Sills.
No.
They were 31st. You can't get worse. I mean, based on that alone, they might go up. They might improve.
Two last ones here for you. Do you think the sideline communication will be better this year than it was a year ago with the style of coaches that will be on the sidelines next to Nick? Because there were times last year people were talking about a security guy being involved with communications on the side. I've never heard that before, that a sideline security guy had any kind of say in the communication. The players going back and forth, the head coach. Do you think that sideline will be a little more professional this year? And I didn't think it showed a lot of great looks last year. That was just my takeaway. Do you think it'll be better this year?
I do.
You think that's going to be one of Nick's biggest improvements?
I think it has to be, or he's gone. And that's where I'm like, we had a funny segment with BLG, who had the over-under on Nick Sirianni's like apologies for sideline antics. And John and BLG took the over. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take the under here, because I think Nick knows if he wants to be the coach here long-term, and maybe he doesn't, honestly. I'm not sure. He's going to have to cater to the owner and the GM. And I think they told him, like, yo, man, you can't be getting caught up there. You got to be the head coach of the football team. And that's part of the reason that Nick got rid of the offense, And the one interesting thing about this will be, I think, the quarterback again, where in 22, he was that quiet guy on the sidelines. And because they won, really, everybody liked it. Everybody was totally cool with it. And then when you start to lose, you start to wonder, like, should he have been something different there? So it'll be curious to see, like, does he stick with that approach? Is he the same Jalen on the sideline? Or are you going to start seeing him talk more and be that kind of guy? And that would show you that he believes it was a problem, the way he did it last year, and he wants to correct it. Or it'll show you he doesn't think it was the problem. He doesn't think he has a leadership problem at all, and he's going to stick to his guns on what worked for him. So we'll see. I think that'll be a quick tell on how the quarterback's handling the sidelines. I don't know about Kellen, though. I mean, what do you think about Kellen?
I think Kellen Moore wants to smooth what he said in the offseason. He said he wants a smooth running operation, and I think this guy doesn't want any kind of chaos in that, and any kind of – because, again, do me one favor this year that you guys struggled that mightily a year ago. Get that fucking play in quicker. Last year, how many times did they – get that play in late? And that's
where I think Brian Johnson was over his skis.
Completely.
Yeah.
Because getting the play in late doesn't give the quarterback and the offense, and it gives the more the advantage. Xander, the more that clock ticks down from 24 to 5, you're giving the advantage back to the defense on first or second sound, and then you've got to set the guy, because how many times did that play get in there? Under like 8 seconds. You have to set the line. You had 3 seconds. It became so predictable, especially when the tight end went out. You went from 8 seconds, set, or first or second sound. You knew immediately as a defensive guy where they were going. You just knew. Get that play in quicker. And what I've heard, and I like one of the guys' comments, when you go back and you listen to a live feed of Kellen Moore calling a play, 38 wide swap with a twist. It's quick. It's not this verbiage that Nick had.
Right.
Went on and on and on like a beatitude. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you knew, okay, make it short. Make it simple for the guy. Maybe that's one of the things that Jalen had a problem with was that, okay, what is he saying here? Because he wants to simplify the verbiage to get the play in quicker so Jalen could see what defenses they're trying to set up with him. Last year, I thought that was an issue why he had a lot of turnovers. He got the play in late.
Yeah, I agree. Is that a concern with Jalen Hurts? Like, I got news.
But that's
if you go play in LA, if you go play in LA though,
what?
If you go play in LA, Sean McVay's plays are not a couple syllables, my friend.
Well, those are different quarterbacks that you have. Like
that's what I'm saying. Is that a cause for concern where you wonder, you know, do they have to dumb the offense down too much for Jalen to pick it up, and that might be a problem.
That's just not Xander. There's certain guys that can listen to that and understand it immediately.
Yeah,
like Brady and Matthew Stafford. You know why Goff got moved out? Because Goff was more like Jalen, and Matthew Stafford's more like Brady. This savant guy, you could throw 100 different kind of verbiage things at him. He knows what a wide cross is, and he knows what he means. And that's why those guys are on the same page. That's why a lot of guys don't want to move off a quarterback, Xander, because some guys just have the propensity to understand what you're saying. And it doesn't matter what the play call is to be able to get it in. They'll tell you exactly what it is. Some guys just can't take that. Like John Gruden's plays were so freaking long, and it took forever. Last question here for you. Did they address the depth on the team?
No, not at all.
You think there's a depth issue going into the season?
I mean, I think they're a top-heavy roster. Now, I'm okay with that because I'd rather have tremendous players at the top than have a roster full of mediocre people. Because I think at the end of the day, there is a lot that goes on talent in this league. These are talented men out there. I mean, that's just the bottom line. So you got to have good players, but where's the depth at receiver? Where's the depth at offensive line, really, outside of what we hope is going to be Mekhi Becton? Where's the depth at running back? Where's the depth at linebacker? Where's the depth on the defensive line? Where's the depth at safety? Cornerback, we keep saying we have depth. Tight end. Cornerback, we keep saying there's depth, but technically they're all unproven. So you can't really, I mean, it's depth. Yeah, you have players to play if somebody goes down. That doesn't mean they're going to be good.
You just don't want a cliff fall. Like,
yeah, and that's the
worry. Here and then it goes to here. You don't want that.
Yeah, sure enough is right. Most rosters are top heavy. I mean, that's true. That's why attrition's such a thing in the NFL, where if somebody goes down, most of the time you're in big trouble. I mean, so I get it. I don't want to live in a land though where I'm trying to, legislate every injury or be prepared for every injury. Like, John keeps talking about the wide receiver 3. What if you lose Devontae and AJ? And I'm like, well, we're fucked.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, but like you can't have it all. If we lose somebody like that, it's gonna suck. I mean, we're gonna be fighting an uphill battle to win games in the playoffs, and that's the reality of the NFL. So, I don't think they've addressed the depth, but like I said, I'd rather be top heavy.
You think Kenny Pickett? I like what you said. Pickett's 14-14 as a starting quarterback in the NFL on a shitty offense. With a shitty coordinator with Matt Canada,
he's
the last 2 years, and he still went 14-14. You think they could still make? I still think if they do it right and Barkley's healthy, I still think they could make a playoff team. And if they can get Hurts back in the postseason, they could still, like, the ship won't go down. I don't
think believe so at all. But here's what will change: the offense will change.
Oh, completely.
This is the one thing, where I don't fully understand it. It kind of goes back to the Gardner Minshew era in Philly as the backup, where, and they got out of it last year with Mariota. But to the Minshew, to the Pickett point, there's such different styles of quarterback that, if God forbid, if Jalen Hurts did go down, you're almost switching it completely out.
Versus that's by design.
I think it might be.
Get this. If Hurts doesn't succeed, they want to see what this offense would look like if Hurts gets hurt or what have you, God forbid, that you go to a 7-step guy and a pure pocket passer and see what this offense could look like, because you're right. Mariota was more of that. Gardner Minshew was more of that. I mean, even this guy, Tyler McKee, or this guy, whatever his name is, the other guy.
Tanner, yeah, he's a 6'6" Stanford pocket passer.
Right, and he can't jump over a stack of quarters.
Exactly.
This guy there's no quarterback really on the Eagle roster that resembles anything of Jalen's skill set. Because it just kind of looks like, well, if it doesn't work with Hurts, here's what it would look like with a pocket
JM's
passer.
right too. I mean, Pickett is just not an RPO quarterback. That's kind of my
Why
point
would you sign him?
Well, because maybe you're right. Maybe they're open to the idea that if Hurts goes down and you have the type of weapons you have, you can win with a lesser quarterback because of the weapons around you. You know, can Pickett be a version of Brock Purdy with the weapons around him if Jalen were to go down? I don't need you to do too much, young man. Just drop back and get the ball out. You know, maybe they'll go that route. And Kellen Moore obviously is more than capable of being able to do that, call an offense like that. That's you could argue that we know Kellen Moore is better at that than he is at calling the style for Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so that's where it's interesting.
Kenny Pickett is more like Dak than what Jalen is. Right? He's more like a Dak Prescott style of play. Right?
Yeah, JM has been making this point. JM, appreciate it, brother. He does. He's right though. You know, JM's opening a can of worms with this comment.
Can he flick it? Can he flick it?
But it is weird, right? Like
it is.
The Eagles love the passing game quarter. They love that like whole thing. Lurie loves the high-powered offenses. I don't know. Like it almost is like they're hedging a little bit if they wanted to go back the other route. Now I'm not saying they're going to go there, but they made a decision to pick up that style of quarterback. I mean, Justin Fields was out there. There was other guys out there.
They could have went with Fields.
You know who I wanted them to go with if they were going to model Hurts? I wanted him to go with Tyler Huntley, the guy that backed up Lamar Jackson. I thought he was tremendous. I actually think he could be a good starter in the league somewhere. James A says that I prefer Tyler Huntley. That's fair, James, because he's more on par with Jalen. But yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
and you got another guy who's got two left feet back there. That's one of your third quarterback.
Yeah, Malik Willis would be good, Mr. International. Appreciate that.
Yeah, how come they didn't bring any of these guys in?
It's interesting to wonder, you know, Kenny Pickett could be pretty good in this offense. The guy won 14 games with Matt Canada and a roster that was nowhere near our roster. Not offensive line wasn't as good. Skill position players weren't as good. I mean, just nothing was as good over there. Interesting. Very interesting to wonder about what he would be able to do in Kellen Moore offense. You know, get that ball out quick, man. Get your playmakers involved. I wonder what it would look like. I got a feeling that the Eagles brass is wondering the same dang thing.
I got to sneak one last one in on you here. Let me do this. Do you believe what's the percentages that we see Kenny Pickett this year in a ball game and Hurts is not hurt?
Well, I will tell you the percentage in 1 second. Ready? And my percentage is going to be statistical based because he has played 4 seasons. 1 season, he's played all 17 games. So there's a 25% chance Jalen Hurts doesn't go down, technically. 75% chance.
You think there's a 25% chance that he plays
all games? I think there's a 75% chance that he plays a game.
Hey, God forbid that guy
throws. Not knocking the quarterback, just, you know,
God forbid that guy throws for 350 yards in the ball game, and they look like a Kansas City Chiefs offense, because then you'll start getting the Nicky Foles stuff.
Prince is jumping on my ass now because I'm wondering about Kenny Pickett. I hear you, Prince. I'm not saying Kenny Pickett's the next coming. All I'm saying is he's a different style of quarterback. It would be interesting to see, you know, if he wins 14 games in Pittsburgh, what he can do with our roster. That's all I said. I didn't say that he was great. I just said it would be interesting to see. That's all.
Yeah. It's still interesting to see. I like it. Hey, hit the like button. Xander, great stuff as always. Thank you so much, my friend. Don't forget to catch my friend Birds 365 in the mornings. You guys are awesome. Xander, you're awesome. Thank you so much for doing this each and every single Monday through Friday. 3:30 sharp, our segment with Xander. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Big Sales. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody in the chat for tuning in. Make sure you guys drop a like. Appreciate you all.
All right, folks, do me a favor. Please hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sales National Football Show. Please hit the like button. So you got Sauce Gardner of the Jets hanging out with Philly mob boss Joey Merlino down in South Florida. A couple of my boys sent me a picture of him hanging out down in South Florida with a mob boss from Philly. I had to double check it. And true. Yeah. And I was like, I think I got the picture too. And I posted it. I got DM'd from Sauce, and he's like, dude, he came up to me. We're at the beach. Let me see. And I'm like, hey, man. I go, you didn't know that was a mob boss. He's like, here it is. Sauce Gardner hanging out with Philly's own Joey Merlino. How you doing? How you doing there, man? Right there on the beach, right there. Guess where they were? Dare I say it? Fountain Blue, baby. Go get him, Joey. Sauce. Big Sills is like Xander said. Molino. Hey, Robert. Just like Xander said, Big Sills knows them all. Big Sills has been everywhere. Beach Club is nice. Oh, I love the Fountain Blue. One of my favorite places. Hey, forget about it. How you doing? Okay? How you doing? How you doing, man? My boss? How embarrassing. Why? Because he's a paisan? I'm still a fan of the Bonanno family. Yeah, get this. You know why I'm not a fan of the Bonanno family, Mr. International? Not that I have any kind of ties or anything to anybody, but they decided to sell all their interest in the olive oil business and move to Arizona. That's a true story. They decided to sell all their interest in the olive oil business, and they moved to Arizona. They're now in Scottsdale, all the Bonanos. So, I mean, you move out of Brooklyn, and you know what? You're now a member of the Scottsdale community. I don't know. How you doing? Check out the Boca Beach Club. Great place, man. Yeah. An absolute great place. No question about it. Good job, Sauce. All right. So I wrote down the Big Sills preseason playoff teams. Let me hear your 7 teams first. Let's do AFC. What teams do you feel will be your postseason participants on the AFC side? Scarfo was a monster. No idea who you're talking about. No idea. Can you trust a guy like that? There were great places in the 80s and 90s. Oh, I do it. I'm the Fountain Blue. I'm still very close to all the people down there. They're very good friends of mine. Okay. Hey, what's my, hey, Nikki Scarfo. Yeah. Scarfo family, I've got nothing to say about them. They're fine folks. They're fine folks. Okay. Here is Big Sills' AFC 7. Okay. We're going to go from 7 up. I like that. He was a boss back in the 80s. Miami. AFC East. I think the Dolphins get there. Too much firepower. I think they've upgraded on defense. Wow. Even without Vic. Their wide receiving core is as good as Philly's. I think their running back tandem is better than Philly's. Their O-line is nowhere near Philly's. Their quarterback led the NFL in passing yards. I think they got a pretty good offense, and their offensive play caller, I think, is pretty damn good. I got the Miami Dolphins as the 7-hole, in my opinion. I think they make it to the playoffs. Number 6, this is going to be a shocker. I've got the New York Jets. AFC East. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a great year. I think Hassan Reddick is going to lead the NFL in sacks. Hold on. Hassan Reddick is going to lead the NFL in sacks with 18. 18 sacks for Hassan Reddick. Let me write that down. I want to remember that. Yeah, right? 18 sacks from Hassan Reddick. I think he had 16 one year. Yeah, I think he can do it too. And he's got a hell of a coach who's a coordinator. That's right. He got 17 in Philly. Why couldn't he get 18? Okay. Yes, sir, baby. Yes, sir. Mr. Hong Kong Fooey Reddick is going to have 18 sacks and lead the NFL in sacks. Okay? They're really going to be, hey, James. James goes, Sills. They're really going to be pissed. Okay. You enjoyed this too much. Yeah. Come on, Jack. Have some fun with me, bro. Hong Kong's in China, bud. Okay. I forgot. Hey, Jack. You know, you're right. I forgot. That's right. Japan. That's right, because I wrestled in Japan. Tokyo's in Japan and Hong Kong's in China. Thank you. Or as Trump would say, China. Ah. Hey, China. No. President Trump, it's China. China. Number 5. The winners of the AFC East, led by the second best quarterback in pro football, Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills. They win the AFC East. Number 4. Look at Forte. Reddick will get 9. Like the last 4 years, he's got nothing less than 11. But now he'll be less because he's not an Eagle. Josh Allen wins the AFC East for a 6th straight year. Antonio Inoki, way to go, JM. Excellent pull, my friend. Excellent pull. Okay. Get this. Here's Yale. Who's the wide receiver in Buffalo? Don't need one. Just like you don't need one in KC. It's all about the QB. It's all about the homie. It's all about the homie. It ain't about people around Josh Allen. It's about Josh Allen. David Kincaid's a good player. It's going to spread the ball around. I agree with you, Tony. Look at Tony Paisanzani. Like it. Like it. He had one last year. Yeah, he lost. Get this. Once again, you lose to Baker Mayfield and Tyler. What's his name? Well, who was the pizza guy? Drew Lock and the pizza guy. You lost to a pizza guy. He's not even on the team anymore. You know what he's doing now? He's working for Barstool, and he's getting pizzas for Portnoy now. One bite. That's what that quarterback is doing. You know the guy with the 4-leaf clover outfit on that was his agent? He got him. He's working with Barstool now. Yeah, he's delivering pies in New Jersey. Yeah. Number 4. These are the Big Sills preseason fabulous 7. Number 4. Houston Texans. They win the AFC South. Number 3. He's a wild card. Joey B. AFC wild card. Bengals. Number 2. Lamar, 2-time most valuable player, Jackson. Wins the AFC North. And of course, the legend, the myth, the Swifties, and the Kansas City Chiefs will be number 1. By the way, tell me something. Why is that logo of a tomahawk chop or a tomahawk head accepted, but the Redskin one isn't? Or the Florida State Seminole guy is accepted, but the Redskin isn't. Just curious. Why is that accepted? FSU still got it going on. Why is the Blackhawk? What's the difference between the Blackhawk emblem on the sweater of the Chicago Blackhawks in the NHL and what the Redskins had on their helmet. What's the difference? You ever seen the logo for the Blackhawks? Why is that accepted, but the Redskins wasn't? You could change the name and keep the logo. You could change the name. You didn't have to change the logo, did you? Why'd you have to change the name and the logo? Chiefs were peaceful. Yeah, that tomahawk chop that they go, da, na, 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 na. That's a battle hymn when they were going into battle to go against the Union Army. Yeah, that was real peaceful. Washington logo is iconic. Wait a minute. It's almost the same. Hey, Yale, have you ever seen the Chicago Blackhawk? Have you ever seen the Chicago Blackhawk logo of the Indian head? Doesn't it look like the Redskin head? Right? What's the difference? Seals, you love that chant. I do. I love the one Florida State has. It's the same one. I love what the Braves do. I think it's cool. I'm not a tight ass like you, bro. I don't think there's anything to it. They do it at Tallahassee at Doak Campbell. They still got it. I've been at games. I've played in games there at Doak. Thought it was dope. Nobody was offended there. The Seminole Indians aren't offended even. It is all in honor. Okay? Florida State, the Florida State Seminoles, the actual tribe, have endorsed it. They don't have a problem with it. And it's the same chant that goes on in Atlanta and Kansas City. What's your problem with it? Oh my God, I'm one of these wokey guys. Redskins is a patently offensive name. Change the name. You didn't have to change the logo, I said. I got it. Okay? And Slagger, I would say this. Have the NFL give Native Americans a percentage of it. I don't know. I think Florida State Seminoles give them some of the merchandising that go to the tribes there in Seminole County and down in South Florida. I think they do a little bit of that. Because I know for a fact FSU had to get the Seminole tribe to okay it. Didn't have a problem with it. Redskins' name and logo should return. I agree. Lost their identity. It's like an expansion team. When I watched Washington thing, whatever, formerly known as Prince, you completely lost your identity. Hey, James Jones. I mean, you could have went and used a Lombardi yellow helmet. Okay? And you could have had the R on the helmet or that spear that they had the burgundy one with the spear on it if you wanted. You want to change your Redskin name? Okay, so be it. I think the Washington Redskins made a massive mistake by changing the identity of the franchise because it doesn't even resemble. In order the fans even understand. That's why they don't go to games. You lost your history. The difference is Florida State does a lot for Seminole tribes. In fact, their mascot is an actual Seminole Indian. As far as the Blackhawks, same goes with them. Love you, Sales. Thank you, Daniel. That's pretty cool. Man, I love that. Hey, in my opinion, Daniel, the greatest logo in professional team sports is Chicago Blackhawks. That thing is dope. Hey, yeah, that could be a great point. One of the reasons why that they ended up being total dicks to the Washington organization was because of the owner. If there was somebody that was halfway decent in there, they may have worked with him. You know? So I love that Blackhawk jersey, man. It's the name of the freaking sports team. Who gives them? Dude. Redskins and Cowboys. Now it's Cowboys and whomever. Washington thing. It's offensive. And what's with this Cleveland Guardian thing? Guardians are rubber. It's a prophylactic. I mean, what is that? I don't get, folks. Knock its statues down. Columbus Day. The Cleveland Guardians. I thought, well, it was like, baseball's got a new expansion team? Where's that? The Guardians? Why are they named after a prophylactic? Is it Guardian a prophylactic? I'm like, what is that? Really, we're in that position now? Anyway. So, here are my 7. Dolphins, Jets, Bills, Houston, Bengals, Ravens, and Kansas City Chiefs. I love that. I love Bobby Hull too. My cousin is a huge Redskin fan, hates the new team name, has had a hard time rooting for the franchise ever since they did what they did to RG3. Put him back. Hey, get this, Daniel. Why do you think Trent Williams is a San Francisco 49er? He's a San Francisco 49er because of the medical people that Daniel Snyder had in the building. And they misdiagnosed RG3. They put him back on the field right away. And then when they misdiagnosed Trent Williams demanded a trade. He said, I'm out of here. The trainers and the doctors in Washington, according to those 2 players, misdiagnosed those players. Trent should never have left the Washington Redskins. He should never have left them. Instead, you allowed a guy who would go down arguably as the greatest Redskin, one of them of all time, to go to San Francisco because Daniel Snyder had poor doctors and Trent Williams said, get me out of here. I mean, that guy was a train wreck. Total. Yale says Bobby Hull, Tony Esposito, Stan Mikita, Keith Magnuson, all those guys were just fabulous players too. The late run here that they had too, with all those players that they won 3 cups with. Some really good players that they had too. Don't forget they also had who was the goaltender that they had in there in Chicago too? Oh no, that was Detroit. I forget. Dennis Hull played in Chicago as well. Chicago Stadium. You know, they actually played a football game in there once, Yale. An indoor football game, 80 yards. Wasn't 100. It wasn't a 100-yard stadium field. Okay? Dan, politics, gotta love it. Well, unfortunately, that's, hey, by the way, Mr. International, if you're not getting your popcorn and your beer every night watching this Trump-Biden thing, it's one of the most hilarious things I've ever seen. It's like watching skits on Saturday Night Live, both these guys. You remember when Chevy Chase used to fall down as Gerald Ford? That's what I'm watching with Biden and the other guy. I mean, it's classic. This is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Those press briefings every day are hilarious. They're hilarious. I can't get enough. I laugh all day. You know, when I need, hey, get this. Back in the day, when I wanted to get serious, you turn on news. Now, when I want to laugh, I just turn on the news. But Sills, Jack, you're right. Yes, you're right too. It is terrifying. It is terrifying. Maybe I'm a glutton for that kind of BS, but it is Comedy Central. Let's do the NFC. Jack is right. He's like, Sills, you know, okay, but it's kind of terrifying, isn't it? Okay, if we're going to be real about it, I guess so. Hey, Ray, flip a coin, dude. Hey, Ray, when a presidential race comes down where the average age is 160 years up, what are you expecting? Two guys combined are 160 years old. I mean, these guys have relatives that go back to the Civil War. Oh, man. I guess so, man. Here is the NFC. Here is my fabulous 7. Big Sills, AFC, NFC, postseason teams as we're 2 weeks out to training camp. Let me see here. JM got Philly, Detroit, Atlanta, San Francisco, the Rams, Cowboys, Packers. Here's Big Sills. Here is the NFC preseason Big Sills favorites for the postseason. Number 7, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a wild card team coming out of the NFC South. Number 6, I have the Los Angeles Rams coming out of the NFC West. Number 5, I have the Green Bay Packers coming out of the NFC North. Number 4, representing the NFC East as NFC East champions, I have the Washington Redskins. Number 3, representing the NFC South, I have the Atlanta Falcons. Number 2, representing the NFC North, I have the Detroit Lions. And number 1, representing the NFC West, the San Francisco 49ers. James Jones, what do you like? What do you think of my prediction, James Jones? Have you noticed I got both Cowboys and Eagles not making it? That's a Big Sills bold prediction. I don't think the NFC East is going to be shit. I've got 100 bet that Washington Commanders finish better than Dallas Cowboys. I think they're going to battle for the East, man. It's all going to, hey, if that quarterback plays anything like CJ Stroud, and I'm not saying he needs to play exactly like that, but if he plays anything near that, they're going to win a boatload of games. They got a good defense. They got skilled players. Their offensive line is improving. They're a good football team, man. Now you got some decent coaching there. You got Quinn as your coordinator. You got Kingsbury as your OC there. You got a bunch of good things going on. You got new direction in the ownership. The general manager's doing pretty good. James, you feel good about that? Terry McLaurin and Johan Dotson, the kid from Penn State. They got a tight end that's emerging. I like Washington. By the way, Washington a year ago, they had better coaching. They at least split with the Eagles. Year before that, they did, didn't they? I think Washington's got some really good stuff here. Again, Washington, when you look at their front 7, they got the best linebacking core in the East. Now, pressure on the quarterback is going to be an issue. But their linebacking core, they got that Frankie Louvu guy. They added him. They added the former Seattle guy. He's there as well. Played with Dan Quinn up in Seattle, by the way, too. Linebackers look great. I think they're going to help that front four. Secondary's not bad as well. Yeah. Seals would be wrong again. I wasn't wrong about your stiff running down the lane last year. Yeah. Yes, right. Okay. Gail says they possibly have still 2 years to go. I think, again, yeah, this is going to come down to the quarterbacks. So this is what the matchup would be. So Kansas City and San Francisco, once again, would get the bye. It would be Detroit versus Tampa Bay. It would be Atlanta versus the Rams. Wow, would that be good? Cousins versus Stafford. Then it'd be Washington versus Green Bay. And in the AFC, it'd be Baltimore versus Miami. Cincinnati versus the Jets. Houston versus Buffalo. So you'd have Lamar Jackson versus Tua, Joe Burrow versus Rodgers, and Stroud versus Allen. And in the NFC, you'd have Goff versus Mayfield, Cousins versus Stafford, Jalen Daniels versus Jordan Love. That AFC, look at how that playoff would go. Lamar Jackson versus Tua in Baltimore. Cincinnati would be in New York to take on Aaron Rodgers with Joe Burrow and Aaron Rodgers. And Houston would host the Bills down in Houston. It'd be Stroud versus Allen. All with the likelihood of having to take on, who would I take in that matchup? I would take Baltimore to move on. I would take Cincinnati to move on. Houston, Buffalo. Would I take Houston? I'd probably take Houston. So it would be Kansas City versus Houston in the divisional round. Baltimore versus Joe Burrow in the divisional round. And the winner of that would be KC versus Joe Burrow in the AFC Championship game. AFC's loaded. AFC is absolutely loaded. Vic is known for playing two-eye safety. He doesn't let you get beat deep. Control and contain. He makes you dink and dump. That's who he is, DFW. He's a control and contain guy. And remember something that they did a pretty smart job of. Okay? They did a really good job of recruiting and drafting guys who played in zone defenses. That's what Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell played in when they were in college. They played in those zone defenses. Transition won't be as horrible for them. Bills have neither defense nor offense, yet they'll make the playoffs. Seals is truly special. Well, shit, you had a superstar team last year, and you got blown out in the playoffs. What happened? What happened to your superstar team a year ago? Prince. And by the way, you think Kansas City's a superstar team? Who? On offense. Travis Kelce and Mahomes. That just shows you all the great talent you have in Philly. You had a better group of players. Doesn't matter. It's all in the quarterback. It's all in the QB. It's not how good your receivers are. It's not how good your running back is. And at times, it's not even as good as your offensive line. It's as good as your quarterback. If your quarterback can't do it, You can't win no matter how much talent you have. You're dumb, my friend. I see why your NFL career. Okay. I see why you were sent home. Because your team got killed by the Bucks. A team you beat earlier. We did not learn what the Bucks learned that much. 9 points. Ever seen an NFL team lay down like the Birds last year? In a playoff game, too. You would. KC's the top dog in the AFC because of the coaching. Yale. Look at this ability they have. They got coaches. Both coaches are going to the Hall of Fame. Steve Spagnuolo's going to the Hall of Fame as a defensive coordinator, and Andy Reid's going as a head coach. Steve Spagnuolo has more Super Bowl rings than Andy Reid does. I don't know. Was Andy on that coaching staff that won the Super Bowl with Favre? He may have. So Andy may have 4 too. Andy Reid may have been on that coaching staff because he was a quarterback coach in Green Bay under Holmgren. So he may have another Super Bowl ring when he was on that coaching staff up there with Mariucci and them guys up in Green Bay. So he may have. Barkley's going to hurt. What did I read? Barkley's going to hurt a lot of feelings this year, one way or another. Yeah. Twiz. That's a really great take. Twiz, that's a great take. He's either going to have a spectacular year this year or he's going to break a lot of hearts. I'm agreeing with you, Twiz. I don't think it's going to be anywhere in the middle. I don't. I think you're dead on. He's either going to have one of those years where you saw 2 years ago where he got 13-10, or he's going to have a year where he's just banged up and it's nowhere to be seen. Sean goes, your ass keeps living in the past, so you're telling everyone here that you wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles have another meltdown this year. Right. No. I won't be surprised because the same head coach is here. No, I wouldn't. Again, it's going to come down to your quarterback. How good is he? Xander and John McMullen, all great takes. They think he's going to turn it around. Okay? I don't think he's going to have the ability to turn it around because they're trying to do things with him that I don't believe until I see it, that they're going to run things that they did in 22. Until that day happens, not a chance. I didn't see anything that resembled 22 a year ago. Nothing. Hey, was there anything he did last year that reminded you of 2022? Anything? You know, there was a moment. It was the Buffalo overtime game where he looked like 22. And when that game ended, I went, man, that guy plays like that every night. That team's hard to beat. But they don't. Then you go up and shit the bed in Seattle. You get me? When he looked like that against Buffalo in that fifth quarter when they were in overtime, I was like, damn, that drive he went down the field, ran it in. You're like, man, it's just impossible. But I don't believe it. You're telling me that Sirianni has that much negativity impact on the team. Well, how much of responsibility, Sean, do you think the head coach rears for last year's meltdown? What would you give him as a percentage? What would you blame Sirianni in the half? 50%? 10? 2? I know most of you would think Jalen Hurts is 2%. What would you say? 35%? 89%? And you got the same guy in the building. What's changed? So what? The coordinator. So and here's the reason I'm asking. Maybe 5. He goes, get this. This guy Sean thinks that Nick Sirianni only had 5% of the blame for the team's meltdown last year. And so I'm assuming then, Sean, his assistants were 100%. Is that right? Coordinators, Big Sills. So, Gabriel, according to you, then, the coordinators are going to have more say this year than the head coach. Is that correct? I blame Patricia. Well, who hired Patricia? Who? Sirianni is at least half responsible for the meltdown, if fully because he wouldn't listen to Hurts. Sirianni lost control of the team. It was all their faults. Here. I'll give you my out-and-out assessment of your team honestly right now. Do you have a team that could play in the Super Bowl on July 9th? I don't believe so until I see your defense play. All those question marks that Xander had when he was on at 3:30 today is a prime example why. I'm not going to tell you you're a Super Bowl team if you've got more than 10 questions that you're not sure of your team. How can that be watch this. What's the biggest concern in KC? Let's do this. That's not fair. What's the biggest concern in Buffalo? Or no, in Cincinnati? Burrow's health. If Burrow is up for 17 games, that team's in the AFC Championship game. Maybe running game? Maybe. Baltimore, what's the big concern? Health? Health for Baltimore? Perimeter playmakers? Zay Flowers was okay. Hey, you want to hear something crazy? How did Lamar Jackson win a MVP with no 1,000-yard receivers on the team? I don't know if I've ever seen that. Hurts had an 1,100-yard back and 2,000-yard receivers over 1,100 yards. One guy with 1,500. That guy didn't have a receiver over 1,000 yards last year on the team. Did he have a running back with 1,000? Did he have a running back with 1,000 last year? So the guy didn't have a 1,000-yard rusher last year. He didn't have a 1,000-yard receiver. Mr. International, who was a 1,000-yard running back? And not the quarterback. Who was their 1,000-yard running back that they had last year? I may have missed it. I may have missed it. Here's a guy that had nothing. I mean, he had no 1,000-yard. They lost the tight end too, didn't they? So they lose the tight end. That's kind of one of the top 4 guys in the league. They don't have a 1,000-yard receiver. I don't think they have a 1,000-yard rusher. And I'm not counting Lamar because I think Lamar went over $1,000. How did he win the most valuable player award? I mean, that shows you talk about carrying a football team on your back. That guy carried that entire organization on his back. Where's the superstar talent in Baltimore? Odell Beckham gave him nothing. So look at this, Mr. International. I can't believe that. Hey, Yale, they had no thousand. So Jalen had 1,000-yard back. 2 receivers over 1,000. The best O-line, and the guy in Baltimore won the MVP. And he had no receivers with $1,000 and no running backs with $1,000 and a lesser O-line. Not by much, though, because that's a pretty good O-line up there. How in the world did that guy do that? And they won 14 games. And they had home field advantage in the AFC playoffs. The AFC championship game was in Baltimore. That's a season. That's carrying a franchise on your back. Holy shit. I didn't realize that until right now. That is a big-time year. What do you mean he spreads the ball around? He had 3,100 passing yards. He didn't throw for $4,000. He had 3,100 passing yards or 3,400 passing yards or some shit like that. It wasn't a high total. He had less than Hurts. How did he win the MVP? What a sensational season. No 1,000-yard receiver, no 1,000-yard back. It was all Lamar Jackson. That's $50 million. That's a good regular season. Hey, Sean, that guy carried his team all the way to the AFC Championship game. Your guy carried your way all the way down to a shit performance against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Don't kid yourself. With all that talent. That guy had no talent on his staff and in his huddle. Damn. That's getting it done. Mr. International, I don't know if that guy's going to win a Super Bowl, but I know this. If he loses a wide receiver, that's not the end all. If Jalen Hurts loses one or Brock Purdy loses one, those guys' seasons are over. You don't have to worry about that in Baltimore. Tight end goes down, wide receiver goes down. That guy's going to carry your football team across the finish line. There lies the difference in Lamar Jackson and Jalen and Brock Purdy and many of the other quarterbacks in the league. And that's what they're saying that Josh Allen's going to have to do this year in Buffalo. Can you imagine Lamar Jackson in Philly? With that talent, they'd never lose a game. They'd never lose a game. Lamar needs to take it to the next level and get to a Super Bowl. Yeah, it'd be nice if they put some talented people around him, don't you think? Like the Eagles do. Don't you think? Derrick Henry's a big ad. It's a big, hey, Niner, all day. Can you imagine Lamar Jackson and San Francisco's offense? Yale goes that Lamar was drafted 30 slots ahead of Hurts. Okay? And Jalen has better talent around him. By far. No 1,000-yard receiver. No 1,000-yard rusher. And he won the MVP. His second by the age of 26. It's wild, is right. That's wild. He's got he won the most valuable player award throwing for 3,300 or 3,400 yards last year. And no talent on offense. And won 14 games. That may be one of the greatest seasons I've ever seen. Hey, Niner, you imagine him there with Christian McCaffrey and with Debo, Ayuk, Trent Williams, Shit. That guy's worth. Hey, if you're going to pay a quarterback big money, you're paying him. I did not realize he carried that franchise that much last year. I thought there was at least 1,000-yard guy. There wasn't. Man, that team gets better. They lost a ton of guys on defense. They lost their coordinator. They lost their secondary coach, who was in Philly. He's now in Tennessee. They lost Patrick Queen. You got some things to address there in Baltimore. Hey, Yell, have you ever seen anything like that? And I'm even thinking, like Mahomes, he's still got Kelsey. So you bring in Todd Monken, they have nobody in the building. They didn't have one all-pro at a skill set player except for him, right? And the Eagles had like what? 9 Pro Bowlers? Lamar had a great defense. They were good on defense, Farrell. They were good. I'm talking about, hey, Farrell. But they had nobody on offense. There wasn't one player skill set. Even the tight end, he went down. They lost the tight end in like week 4. Last year, Ravens had the best overall team, period. Don't make it sound like Lamar had no help. He didn't have any help. Who? Name me one offensive player outside of him. One. Who? Come on, Lord Vaughn. Who? Flowers had 900 yards. Pretty pedestrian. I think he had 900. Odell. I think he had 30 catches. Hey, James Jones. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. That's a guy who carries a team. That's a guy I want to pay $50 million to. My wide receiver or my running back or somebody goes down. Andrews was out. He was out after week 4. But overall team was nuts. No, they weren't. Offense was not good. He was good. How could you be a great Wait, every single guy in your offense was superior to anything Baltimore had. In droves. You had more yards at the tight end position, 2 wideouts, best O-line in football, 1,100-yard back, 1,500-yard receiver, 3,900-yard passer, and Lamar had 3,300 yards and no 1,000-yard back and no 1,000-yard receiver and no 1,000-yard tight end. And you're telling me it was stupid good? Zay Flowers was prolific. Okay. So now he's good when he didn't throw for 4K. No, Twiz. He's good because he doesn't have anybody. I'm not talking about him as a passer. I'm talking about carrying a football team. That guy doesn't throw for $4,000. It ain't like he's got Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown on it. Or he would. There lies the difference, dude. And you got a better O-line. Well, then how come Odell's now in Miami? Sean. Lamar would be the same as Hurts in Philly, making on improved quarterback. What, Farrell? Hey, Niner, you see this right here? They don't want to admit it. The guy in Baltimore carries his team. He carries the water for that team. That's guy that carries the water. I got to take a look at that, man. Holy shit. I'm going to look at those stats a little bit more into timeout here. Do me a favor, guys. Please hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sales National Football Show. I got asked a question by somebody over that was putting a poll together for one of the radio stations in town, and they said, Sills, do you think that Howie Roseman is the best general manager in the city of Philadelphia? And I said, it's kind of a loaded question because Dave Dombrowski has the best resume of any general manager in that city. And Daryl Morey is so overrated. It's so disgusting. He's not good. I don't care what kind of team you put together like you did in Houston or whatever. If you don't close it up by winning championships like Dave Dombrowski has. Now here, to be fair to Howie, who's the best general manager in Philly? It's a loaded question. The Philadelphia sports team GM, Howie's probably better. But as a resume, Dombrowski's the best. Morey's the worst. Briere, we'll see. But Dombrowski, so it's kind of it's a funny question. So someone goes, Dombrowski's the best. I go, well, yes, technically. Okay, technically, he's the best. But Philadelphia-wise, it's probably Howie. Okay? It's probably Howie. Jason goes, I don't know. Morey just got some names to the Sixers. So what? That doesn't mean championships. That doesn't mean anything like that. You can sign all the big names you want. Look at what Brooklyn did. They brought in Kyrie. They had Kevin Durant. They had James Harden. And it imploded. Didn't do shit. Look at what you've had with Harden and Embiid. Hasn't done shit. You can't get out of the first round. Joel Embiid is the NBA's version of Dak Prescott. I keep seeing this guy, people telling me how great he is. Well, okay, maybe. Joel Embiid's Dak Prescott. He's Dak Prescott. Kirk Cousins, sure. Okay. Please hit the like button. I want to show you something that is absolutely insane that I just checked here, and I can't believe it. So I just looked up these numbers for the Baltimore Ravens. How many games did the Ravens win last year? They're a 14-win team, right? They went 14-3, am I right? That team went 14-3. Unless somebody can correct, I think they did. I don't think they were a 13-4 football team a year ago. So, am I right? Lamar threw for 3,678 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 7 picks. He had a running back, Jackson, have 821 yards. Or 811 yards. Flowers had 858. He didn't have 900. He was a beast. Beckham had 565. Andrews played in 10 games for 554. How'd that guy win the MVP? No, Twiz. How did he win the MVP? How did he win the MVP? See why we see you celebrate. No. I am asking a question from a guy who carried a football team to the AFC Championship game. I'm not celebrating anything. I'm asking a question. How did he win the Most Valuable Player award? You had 2 1,000-yard receivers and 1,100-yard back, and that guy wins the Most Valuable Player in 14 games and hosts the AFC Championship game? How? Carrying like you said, carrying a football team, and then losing to Mahomes in the AFC title and to Steve Spagnuolo and Andy Reid. Hey, man, I don't know. Again, he's 2 and what is he in the postseason here as a quarterback? I know his record sucks too. He's like 2-4. I get it. Holy shit. Second most valuable player award. This guy has no talent last year, and he carried his football team all the way to the AFC Conference Championship game. Okay? How is that absolutely possible? I'm just saying 40. I mean, player stats don't always tell the story of a season, says Angelo. You're right. You're right. When you look at his numbers, if you put his numbers down and you go 36-78, 24 touchdowns, 7 picks, 821 yards rushing, I mean, it's kind of hurts. But then you look at it and go, well, he don't have the talent like around him that Jalen has. Your guy could never do that. Then again, I don't think 95% of the quarterbacks in the league can do that. Or at least haven't been asked to do that. That to me is my barometer. Does your team struggle when you lose players? Eagles, yes. Niners, sorry, Niner. Yes. We'll find out in Buffalo this year. Mahomes, lose Tyreek, didn't matter. They've won 2 Super Bowls since. I think those are the kind of quarterbacks you're searching for. Those are the kind of quarterbacks you're looking for. That if you lose players, your guy could still carry your football team and still win ball games. Can Dak do that? It's a great question now, what James Jones brings up. Because James Jones, you'd have to admit, Cowboys have lesser talent on it now than they did 3 years ago. And he still won 12 ball games in the NFC East last year. Now they get even lesser talent. Really no run game. The O-line maybe a little older, not as good. Okay, right? Hurts was not hurt in the Super Bowl. Oh, that's right. He had a shoulder injury that year. You're right. He was hurt. Peter King came out and said that for the Giant playoff game, he could barely raise his arm. That year, he was hurt. Okay? Supposedly, what he said, was that the ankle, he got it out of the boot yesterday and that it's better. Big question this year. Did the Eagles fix why they went 1-7 down the stretch? Or is it going rear its head again this year? That's some of the questions that we asked earlier today, if they've addressed some of those. And to most of it, and yet we're going to see if they validate that stuff this coming year. We'll see if they can validate that when the reason for that 1-7. And that's right, Yale. That's totally the question. Like we said, DFW, here again, like we did. We did this with Xander. Did they address those inexperienced coordinators? Yeah. Now, again, all of this has to be validated in the fall. As Yale said, time was going to tell on this. But have they addressed the 1-7? One of the biggest questions was, you got to get some people in here that have some experience. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but we got to get some experienced coaches in here. Glenn Hurt, Nussmeier, Vic, all these guys that they've brought in, they've made an attempt to bring in quality and qualified guys. So right now you go, yes, they addressed it. Will there be more balance? Well, they're trying to get it because you know what? If they're not going to go RPO, what did they do? What is the best next thing they did if they're not going to run an RPO? Well, get a quality back or an upgrade in a position where they traditionally don't. They went out and they believe they got Saquon Barkley off a bad football team, which I agree. And they believe they've upgraded that guy. So they're looking for more balance. Okay. Did they address the pass rush? I don't think so. I don't. I do not believe they've addressed the pass rush. Bryce Huff. Let's just say you go Bryce Huff, Sills. Well, you lose one and you sign one. Is that an upgrading the situation? Or is that a push? Let's just say he has 12 sacks. The guy he had a year ago had 11. Is that really upgrading your pass rush? No. You address the run defense? This is where I agree with Xander on this. Well, another year for Jordan. Another year for Jalen. More reps, more responsibilities. I want to see what these guys can do this year. I'm looking forward to these 2 tackles. I am. I'm looking forward to it. Can Jalen run an offense effectively under the center? That's a big part of Kellen's offense in the past. I don't believe he can. See, DFW, if people are thinking that he's a traditional quarterback, never happened. He ain't that guy. If people talk like a traditional QB, he's like Lamar, man. By the way, he's got to play like Lamar. Hey, you lose somebody or you don't have somebody in the huddle, you can't have a drop-off. That Ravens team didn't have a drop-off a year ago. They won the AFC. Won home field advantage last year. Lost the AFC championship, but they were the top team in the AFC last year. Seals, you think Howie will go for Hendrickson? I don't know if Duke Tobin this late in the year is going to want to part ways with that. I don't know if he would do that. And if Howie's going there, he's going to have to give a one-up for him, especially this late. Cosmo, the later you go in the year for a player like him, you're going to have to give up money. Plus, the player's going to want a contract. So that's not going to be cheap if you go after the kid from Cincinnati. That's big money. He's a good football player, too, and I think he's one of the more underrated guys. I like him a lot. Is he a cheap man version of a Max Crosby, so to speak? I think he's more like a Aiden Hutchinson. Okay? But if Cincinnati's going to get out of anything, remember something. Why would Cincinnati move off of Hendrickson? Why do you think? Because they're cheap. They just paid the quarterback, what, $55 million? They got a franchise tag on T. Higgins, and they got Jamar Chase's contract coming up. They're not paying Hendrickson $25 million. They're not going to pay him what Brian Burns in New York is going to get. That's why he's going to be expendable. That's why Joe Mixon was expendable and why he's now with a new 3-year contract in Houston. Cincinnati is going to move money around. They're not going to spend more money to put that team in a position to go and win a Super Bowl. They're going to spend all their money like the Eagles are on the offensive side of the football. You know, I mean, T. Higgins is going to be interesting because they've tagged him this year, right? Okay. Do they end up trading for a Ayuk? And do they pay him $14 million this year? Then they move off of Higgins in the offseason? Let's see what they still do. There's guys out there right now and potential that you can make some roster moves. Brandon Ayuk's available. T. Higgins is still available. The kid Hendrickson in Cincinnati is clearly available. I think anybody on the Las Vegas Raiders roster is available. They'll go offense heavily like the Eagles. That's right, Tony. That's exactly what they'll do. They will. Okay? The pass protection. I think the Eagle offensive line is overrated in pass protection. Now, could have been a scheme. Well, that falls on Stoutland. If we're talking scheme. Blitzing, and why do you think teams wanted to blitz the Eagles interior-wise? How does Landon Dickerson get a contract that pays him $20 million a year? And they gave up the third most pressures off of blitzes of any team in the league. They must think it's on the quarterback. Or Dickerson wouldn't get that money because he's in there next to Kelsey. Mansell's I'd go for Crosby, hell of a player. Cosmo. But the one thing you got to remember when you're talking about a guy like Crosby, That's a $30 million guy with a new contract if you're going to go out and get him. He's a spectacular player. He is. I don't know what his age is. Now, the Raiders have moved off of people before. They moved off of Khalil Mack and to get draft picks. This was under Gruden. Would they do it again? Maybe. They need draft equity, the Raiders. They got to rebuild their old line. They lose Josh Jacobs. Look at the Raiders, man. It just seems that the Raiders are cash poor. They don't want to spend any money at any big position when it comes outside of Devontae Adams. But if you're Devontae Adams, you went to the abyss of the league. Why would you go there? Who's the quarterback there? Gardner Minshew? Jesus. Hendrickson's or Crosby's 28. I'd sign that all day long at $30 million. He's a $30 million a year guy. Okay. Scheme fell on Sirianni. It did. Gabriel, I'm not sure if you're talking to me. I'm confused. Why do you go in and the Eagles? You must be talking to someone else. James Jones, I'm sure you're a good guy. I heard you talk about the Eden Ring and play that game. Washington, we talk Washington here. Aiden O'Connell, I don't get it. James Jones has got a good football team this year. All comes down to their quarterback and their quarterback play. No question about it. No question. Can you address turnovers in the offseason? What was that number, Xander? 9, 9, and 9. Right? So 27 turnovers in 3 years. Is that high? You think 27 turnovers in 3 years is high? Or fumbles, I should say. Stops series, stops plays. 27 fumbles is a lot. Now, he's not the turnover machine that Allen can be. But you got to remember one thing Allen does. Allen throws for 100 touchdowns in 3 years. He's a different guy. He covers for his mistakes, which is frustrating. Washington isn't going to win the East. Okay? We'll see. Yeah, I think 27 fumbles is a lot too. Allen is elite. Well, we're going to find out how elite, for sure. Have you addressed, and some of the stuff that Xander and I were talking about, have you addressed the third down pass defense? I think so. Again, all this will be validated in the upcoming season. But you went out, you drafted a bunch of guys at corner. You drafted a bunch of guys the year before at safety. You've got Bradbury and Slay still back there. You've got personnel. You got Isaiah Rodgers now. He's been added to the mix. I don't know how it plays out. I don't know if they're going to be good. But I do know this. They've loaded up back there. And let's see how it plays out. Cosmo Sills, do you think Shanahan is overrated? Like, who would I want? Sean McVay or him? I'll take McVay. McVay just has a better, I think feel for the game. I heard John McMullen say this. Play caller, no. Head coach, yes. That's Xander on Kyle Shanahan. See, but McVay just seems to have a better sense of the team. Here's what I mean. McVay hires Wade Phillips. And he gets Wade Phillips in there. Wade Phillips was just a UFL Coach of the Year. Got his team to the championship game. Some of you go like this, UFL. Well, doesn't really matter what league, what level of talent. Wade Phillips is a hell of a defensive-minded type guy. Players like playing for him. I'm not saying Wade's a great head coach, but I'm saying Wade's a hell of a coordinator. What did he do right after Wade left? Got Raheem. Raheem's got a great sense of the feel of the defense. And you know what I think McVay does better than Kyle Shanahan? Like, get this. You fire Steve Wilkes, a defensive guy that got you to the fifth quarter of a Super Bowl, and you lose by a field goal in the Super Bowl in the fifth quarter against the Kansas City Chiefs, and you fire him? Why? I mean, that wasn't a nuclear implosion like we saw Desai and Matt Patricia and those guys. It was the overtime quarter, and Steve Wilkes had taken that team all the way to the overtime of a Super Bowl, and you fired him. You know why you fired him? Because Kyle Shanahan has no sense of that side of the ball, where Sean McVay does. And he has more trust in his coaching staff. I think as a head coach, Sean has more trust in the guys he hires. And he's not looking for excuses on mistakes that the organization makes. He owns it. Well, you know what he said about Jared Goff? I'm happy for him. You know, if you're the Rams, are you still happy with that move that you made? Well, yeah, you probably are, because Stafford keeps you competitive still, and you did win a Super Bowl. But McVay doesn't make excuses, and he allows his coaches. And I think that organization does a great job, and I think they learned an awful lot on how they treated Steve Spagnuolo when he was the head coach in St. Louis. Those guys both came out and said, we didn't give Steve the opportunity to be a head coach like we've given Sean. If there's any man that deserves the opportunity to be a head coach, it's Steve Spagnuolo. That's so great to hear that from I love the Rams, how they do business. Push all the chips in when they need it. The coach wants it, they do it. They do everything McVay wants. And he was rewarded them 2 NFC titles and a Super Bowl. He's better than Kyle. And I think he's utilized his heritage better than what Kyle has utilized his. His dad has a lot of influence, Mike Shanahan in San Francisco. And I think Mike's offensive philosophies, let's not forget, Mike thought he was going to win a ton of Super Bowls with John Elway when he was the head coach in Denver. That didn't happen until they got a running game going. And all of a sudden, Terrell Davis fell out of nowhere. You got to remember something about Shanahan, Mike Shanahan. You know what round do you think Terrell Davis was drafted? Do any of you remember what school he was drafted out of? He was drafted out of Georgia. And I believe he was like a 10th rounder or 6th rounder. He wasn't even going to make the team. They put him on special teams. And all of a sudden, this guy turned out to be a 2,000-yard back. He was a 7th rounder, Jalen. He wasn't expected to make a team. That's like a Donnell Pumphrey signing or drafting. Nobody thought he was going to be that. That guy parachuted into Denver. Fortunes got changed. Wasn't like Mike Shanahan was a great play caller. I disagree with Jason Cole. Jason thinks Mike Shanahan's a great coach. I don't. But he's got 2 Super Bowl back-to-backs. All on the back of Terrell Davis. Hey, remember when Terrell Davis got hurt? What happened to that Denver team? He got fired. Wasn't like he carried John Elway was a relic by the time they won those Super Bowls. Hey, Yale, you want to hear something? He was at Georgia, and he was a fullback at Georgia. He was a fullback. They didn't even know what they had at Georgia with Terrell Davis. I mean, Herschel Walker has since apologized for the way that they've handled and treated him when he was there. It just shows you some guys, they burst onto your team. You don't know what you have sometimes, and it changes the fortune of your franchise. So, long-winded answer is Kyle Shanahan to what Xander says. Head coach, I don't think he's really a great head coach. I do think he's a great play caller. But in those big games, he and Matt LaFleur have a lot in common. Remember, they were on the same staff in Washington. You know what that is? Just like Andy Reid in Philly. I think they get tied in the old Sphinxter. That thing tightens up. And I think when those 2 minutes going into half and 2 minutes into the end of the game, I think these guys they get a little ahead of themselves. What's the one thing that's changed with Andy? Now, the quarterback affords that, and you're able to go like this, right? Because what's Andy better at now? Well, Mahomes obviously makes it better. Mahomes is changing plays. He's changing plays in the overtime. What head coach has got the quarterback on his football team that's going to go, nah, we're going to go here with RPO? We don't run RPO. Yeah, I know, but we need it. We're not getting a running game going. Niners containing our run game, doing a great job. I'm going to run the ball. Shit. The best quarterback maybe in NFL history. I'm going to run it. 64 yards in the second half. That was the game. But when Reid was like this, okay? That's where Kyle Shanahan doesn't do that. Kyle Shanahan wants everything cookie cutter and in a box. Okay? They want everything in a box. And that's where I think he fails. Remember something. There's coordinators that want big yards and big score numbers. There's certain coordinators that want to win games. The great coordinators want to win games. McVay is a coordinator that wants to win games. He's the best play calling head coach in the league, and that includes Andy. He is just a great young coach. I think he's probably got 2 years left, and he's going to the booth. I think he's going to be sensational as a broadcaster, because that guy, if you've ever been around him, and I've been around him a ton, I was around him when he was a kid. This guy has watched film from 1990 with Andre Rison playing for the Atlanta Falcons, and he'll watch game film, and he'll watch it, and he'll cut plays up, and he'll watch an entire 1992 game of the Atlanta Falcons, write stats down, put notes down. He goes back and watches all these games with Jerry Rice. It's incredible how he can quote you a game from any time back to the 1970s. Because he goes back and he watches all these games. Andy Reid kind of does that too. Yale, Andy goes back to the 40s and watches some of these plays. But this is what Sean McVay does. He can quote a game. Oh, yeah. Like he'll remember something that Joe Horn did back years ago when he was with the Saints. Yeah, Joe, I remember that game, when you were playing against the Dallas Cowboys in 1988, when you went there on that out route. You took that out route, then you did an out fake, and then you went back inside and you did a wheel route. Incredible. And Joe Horn's like, what? There's just certain guys that are like that. That's that guy. He's got this insane brain. So look, Kyle Shanahan's got to win this year. Football IQ. I think that goes down to his granddad. Remember, Yale, his granddad was John McVay. John McVay wasn't a very good head coach in the league. My uncle hired John to be the head coach of the Giants. But John McVay was a hell of a talent evaluator and helped build the 49er dynasty. Celebrating a win when Hurts was good is crazy. It's 2024. Hurts is not good anymore. I don't know about that. Niner. Once again, Niner, I don't want anybody, and people sometimes think, Sills doesn't think much of Jalen. No, that's not true. I just don't think the way you're coaching him is good. I just don't. McVay is a prime John and Jay Gruden. Yeah, well, I don't know. John's pretty good. I think McVay's better than both those guys. I think McVay's better. I think John Gruden is a really great coach. Unfortunately, whatever. Just like Kyle is not a great coach and can't win a Super Bowl. Got to win it. Coaches more so than players. He's got to win it. Make no mistake about it. He's got to put a Super Bowl. Can't have the loss, especially what happened in Atlanta and the 2 L's that he takes in the Super Bowl. He can't have it, man. Got to win one, especially in San Francisco, where Bill Walsh and that great dynasty was put together there. You just can't have it. I can rave about McVay all day. Just an absolutely superstar coach. All right. Guys, I appreciate it. I want you guys to do me a favor. Please hit the like button. We apologize about Gary Cobb. We'll see if we can track him down for it tomorrow. I think we're going to still catch up with Philly 500 and our friend Mark Combs will do that. Cowboys, Dak's in a boot. Then he got out of the boot yesterday. I don't know what that means for the Cowboys if he's going to be available early part of but again, this is your biggest rival for a team you guys think still has a chance. There's a lot of people that still think they have a chance to win the NFC East. Hit the like button. Big Joe Xander, I appreciate it. 2 to 6 tomorrow. Don't forget, hit the like button, and we will see you on the flip.